Right out of the gate, we watch the apocalypse pop off as the invaders totally wreck humanity's defenses without a second thought. Taking a deep breath amidst the rubble, the hero of our story and his companion take in the absolute wasteland around them. Completely outraged by the view, the golden-haired fighter asks if there's literally anyone else left standing besides them. Not sugarcoating it, the violet-haired mage sadly breaks the news that the rest of their squad has already passed on. Faced with this ruthless threat, even the most gifted warriors ended up wiped out, with zero chance of making a jetaway. Without missing a beat, he begs for the girl's full backup, even if his game plan seems completely off the wall to her. Not hesitating for a second, the blonde guy adjusts his shield and makes it crystal clear that his goal is set in stone. Staring down the giant crimson armored beast, the MC declares he's going to deliver the final blow to the monster. The sorceress starts panicking, pointing out that their entire group couldn't even scratch the thing. But he totally rejects the idea of running away. Radiating a massive golden energy, the fighter channels a holy light technique straight into his blade. Burning through his own life force, he glows intensely as he calls upon the 10th form of his martial art. Watching that crazy display of power, the purple-haired girl realizes her teammate hasn't thrown in the towel just yet. Leaping through the sky right at the reddish titan, our MC launches an all-out offensive at max power. As a counter, the giant raises an arm and summons a catastrophic spell to completely obliterate the warrior. Totally dialed in and fearless, the blonde charges straight ahead into the core of the incoming doom. The violent clash between the golden sword and the crimson fist sets off an explosion of monumental proportions. This massive tug of war is so intense it starts tearing up the entire landscape around them. In the heat of this wild brawl, the guy shouts his partner's name, asking for some magical backup. The sorceress reacts instantly, summoning a green symbol and taking charge of keeping them shielded during the clash. While the hero focuses on the close quarters beatdown, she snipes the giant's blind spot with emerald spells. But the creature claps back hard with a massive red blast that brings their assault to a screeching halt. The impact sends our MC flying, making him skid roughly across the debris. Refusing to take the L no matter what, he rushes right back in, his sword glowing brighter than ever. She's a decisive golden slash, aiming to finally crack the creature's thick armor. Blown away by the sight, the sorceress just watches the extraordinary power of that hidden technique. Unfortunately for our duo, the massive opponent swats away his ultimate attack with terrifying ease. Pushing way past his body's limits, our MC yells that this fight is far from over. The vital fluid dripping from his mouth is a pretty clear sign his body is about to give out for good. Freaking out, the mage warns him that his physique won't handle the backlash for much longer. Shaking and stumbling from pure exhaustion, the blonde fighter insists on staying in the ring. Seeing the situation going south fast, the violet-haired girl makes an extreme choice. Pulling a mysterious item from her clothes, she gets ready to play her final card. She conjures an emerald magical prison, trapping the confused hero totally against his will. With a stern look, the mage states she's saving his life, because he's the planet's absolute last hope. Furious, the guy screams that if the creature doesn't go down right now, they're all doomed anyway. Totally calm, she explains that this is exactly why she's trusting him with the burden of changing the future. She then reveals a pocket watch, an ancient magical heirloom passed down from her ancestors. Warns that the clock is ticking and there's no time for a PowerPoint presentation on how it works. Pleading with him, she begs the fighter to stop those scumbags from winning when he gets his next shot. The sudden appearance of a massive ghostly clock sends the hero into a frenzy, demanding to know what her crazy plan is. Ignoring his complaints, she plays her trump card and hands the fate of the entire world over to him. In that exact second, a giant red magic circle swallows the mage's body. With a sad smile, she says a final goodbye to her loyal battle partner. You know, a blue beam shoots across the sky, proving the forbidden spell actually worked. A devastating blast vaporizes the whole area, putting a permanent end to that showdown. Shaped item left in the dust is the only proof she was ever there. Cracks start creeping across the ruined ground around the mystical object. Coughing up blood on the scorched earth, someone is trying their hardest to survive the cataclysm. Drained and nearing her end, the purple-haired mage whispers in relief that her insane plan actually pulled through. The sacred, totally overpowered ability to rewind time is finally triggered by the enigmatic object. The hero's mind goes on a trip through the ages, heading straight to the past to kick off a brand new run. Giant roars in anger, left in the dust as time magic completely rewrites the cosmos. Out of strength, the girl collapses, begging the heavens that her partner can rewrite this grim future. Moments before getting vaporized by the enemy's attack, her one wish is to have a chance to be with the blonde in another life. The warrior wakes up screaming his partner's name, only to realize he's chilling inside a super fancy mansion. Dealing with a massive headache, the guy, who now rocks dark hair, notice he's in some snooty aristocrat's lavish bedroom. Totally dizzy, he pieces together that this noble setup must be the aftermath of the time travel spell. Still under the covers, the young man tries to process the unbelievable trip he just took. A graceful maid sneaks into the room to check if the young master needs a hand with anything. Yelling at the top of his lungs, he demands weapons to fight the invaders, leading the poor girl to assume he just had a nasty nightmare. Super confused when she calls him Noah, he asks the maid's name and she introduces herself as Lydia, his servant. Looking at his own palms, it hits him that his body has gone through a massive downgrade. It's pretty obvious these flimsy muscles don't match his former battle-hardened physique. He wonders if he just reincarnated into a regular dude's body, or if there's a bigger puzzle at play here. Grabbing the girl tight, he shakes her, demanding to know who he is and where exactly he is right now. Terrified by his rough vibe, she backs away, asking if his fever dreams are acting up again. Skipping the small talk, the dark-haired youth raises his voice and strictly demands some straight answers. Trembling like a leaf, the maid explains that his name is Noah, the fourth successor to the Dasker bloodline. When he asks about the current year, he's totally floored to find out he jumped back to the year 850. Doing the math, the guy realizes he rewound a full 10 years before everything went to ruin. Falling to his knees, he sheds tears of absolute despair for reincarnating into the most ruthless, twisted family of swordsmen out there. Cutting his breakdown short, a knock at the door announces the arrival of someone named Selena. Carrying a tray, the new maid steps into the room to drop off the young man's medicine. The girl mentions that Scar brewed this medicinal concoction himself to help out his little brother. For a second, our MC glares at the bowl, smelling bad intentions from a mile away. Using his purplish magical sight, the hero scans the sketchy liquid in the dish. Acting purely on reflex, he smashes the bowl on the floor, making the maids jump out of their skin. Right on cue, armed fighters burst into the room, and the guy casually asks who the crashers are. With a snarky grin, the squad leader claims they heard a loud crash in the room and came to check. But the kid's sharp look proves he isn't falling for that cheap lie. Pretending to be hurt by the disrespect towards Scar's medicine, the guy announces they'll just feed him the next dose. Smirking with pure contempt, the MC asks if these basic thugs have completely lost their minds. He then dares them to take a sip of the miracle potion themselves, revealing the stuff is straight-up lethal toxin. The youth explains his sacred sight caught the trap just by the funky color of the liquid. Ticked off that plan A flopped, the squad leader decides they're doing this the hard way. His opponents drop the act. The guy puts on a face of absolute, unbothered confidence. Totally chill, he complains about the disrespect of sending weak TR goons to take him out. Cracking his knuckles, the noble decides to have a little fun knocking these hitmen around. Wasting no time, the leader yells at his grunts to pin the defenseless aristocrat down right now. Gripping their swords, the thugs rush toward the supposedly helpless kid's bed. Moving fast, one of the attackers tries to lock the hero's arm to keep him grounded. But the lackey is met with a lightning-fast kick that sends him flying backward. The hit lands right on the guy's chin, shattering bone on impact. Blind with rage, the second dude throws a punch but only hits dead air. Catching him completely off guard, the kid delivers a brutal counter right to the poor guy's chest. However, the MC notices his body lacks the juice to actually knock them out in one hit. Realizing how flimsy his new setup is, the whole poison assassination scheme suddenly makes total sense. Not caring about his injured men, the leader just orders them to finish the kid using brute force. Out of nowhere, a glowing, see-through system screen pops up right in front of the hero's eyes. Scanning the thug's vital stats, the youth actually gives them a chance to walk away in one piece. The virtual display shows he's unlocked a neat little trick for scanning statistical data. The scan confirms these hitmen are just scrub tier, level 1 enemies. Furious at being looked down on, a merc jumps, bringing his blade down in a heavy vertical strike. Relying on his veteran muscle memory, the kid dodges the slash by literal inches. Capitalizing on the mistake, the noble drives his knee right into the guy's gut, putting him to sleep for good. Smart, the dark-haired youth snatches the weapon right out of the knocked out guy's weak grip. Now armed, he steps up for a head-on clash, sparking up the room with every strike of metal. With lethal awareness, he spins and blocks a sneaky stab coming from behind. The bedroom turns into a full-blown war zone while the maids completely panic and bolt. Tripping over their own dresses, the servants desperately scramble for the exit. The boss praises the Dasker bloodline's talent. The kid tells him to drop the act and just fight already. Right at that second, unexplainable feeling grips every fiber of the MC's muscles. A toxic purple fog starts leaking from the kid's weapon, a clear sign that some dark mojo is waking up. This unholy energy is exactly why the folks from this bloodline are so feared and dangerous. Once a master of holy light, he now has to juggle a power that's pure corruption. Obviously, stuffing holy and unholy vibes into the same body causes a pretty violent clash. Noticing the kid staggering, the leader laughs, claiming the demonic energy is finally spiraling out of control. The boss admits that the medicine was actually designed to mess up the kid's powers from the inside. The heavy toll of the fight triggered a self-destruct sequence with the corrupted power in his system. Realizing he might literally melt from the inside out, he bets everything on his body's raw endurance. Breaking all the rules of magic, holy light and demonic darkness mash up into a bizarre tornado. Focusing hard, the kid channels the golden power from his past life to choke out the corrupted energy. Mocking the useless effort, the lackey grips his weapon and charges, thinking this is going to be a walk in the park. The merc pops a shadow technique, melting into the room and kicking up a crimson mist. Playing dirty, the creep materializes right behind the noble, gearing up for the finishing blow. Shockingly, the kid catches the fatal stab with just one hand, looking like he's barely trying. Stunned, the opponent can't wrap his head around how the kid tamed that hybrid power to block him. Seeing on the screen that the guy is just level 3, the hero talks trash and demands some respect for the hierarchy. The dark-haired youth delivers a brutal shove, launching his rival across the room and clearing some space. He follows up by launching a curved wind blade that completely trashes the wooden floor. The boss relies on his stealth tricks again to avoid getting sliced in half. The brawl kicks off again, filling the room with the clash of holy and demonic fireworks. Both of them pick up the pace, turning the room into a blur of frantic sword strikes. The lack of muscle is covered by the hero's god, tier muscle memory, putting him in the driver's seat. Too slow for this league, the hitman boss takes a deep slash right to the thigh. Standing still, the fighter figures those quick exchanges were all he needed to read the guy like a book. With a mocking tone, he asks where all that arrogance went, seeing as the opponent is now panting like a cornered dog. The kid flashes a cold smirk as he watches the so-called Shadow Master start sweating bullets. Taking the bait, the invader loses his cool and charges in completely blind with rage. Crying like a baby, the loser screams that his secret technique is absolutely impossible to block. Resorting to his old cowardly trick, he turns into red mist again, totally believing he's invisible. Standing right in the eye of the storm, No-Oh closes his eyes and just tracks the life energy floating around. In a split second, the veteran's sharp senses pin down the disguised rival. Spinning around, he slashes at an empty spot in the room and brutally skewers the guy right there. The intense pain makes the vital fluid spill, completely popping the Merkshi's useless smokescreen. Wrecked on the floor, the hitman mumbles questions, unable to accept that his trick failed. The kid drops some knowledge. Hiding your body is pointless when you're reeking of energy. Spitting up thick blood, the defeated dude begs to know what kind of freakish power that was. Resting his blade on his shoulder, the kid keeps a straight face and admits he has zero clue how he just pulled that off. But deep down, he gets that mixing holiness with darkness created something pretty terrifying. The forced combo between his holy hero soul and this corrupted body birthed a lethal new tool. If he could master this dual battery of power, he'd definitely be able to stop the world from ending. Swept up in memories, he silently thanks his old partner for her insane bravery. The maids finally grow a spine and run back in, screaming in panic and asking if he needs a medic. Giving them a thumbs up, the guy tells them to chill and checks out the bodies littering his floor. Out of nowhere, a messenger bird flies through the window, dropping a sealed envelope addressed to him. The maid recognizes the seal and explains that the head of the family, Lord Victor, is calling for him. Breaking the seal, Noah finds out the patriarch wants to officially toss him into the bloodline succession war. Confused by the news, he doesn't get why the whole family treats this lethal battle royale like a normal Tuesday. Suspicious, he presses the two maids, demanding to know the reason behind this freak show. One of the girls says this is basic trivia for anyone working under the Dasker roof. She explains that this deadly tournament levels up the clan, letting the siblings steal each other's life force. Basically, the kids take each other out, and the winner absorbs everyone else's powers to become unstoppable. Searching his past life's memories, he realizes this shady group barely even made the history books. Nervous, Lydia gulps and asks if he's seriously going to participate in a bloodbath like that. Overflowing with swagger, the former knight shrugs and says they're about to find out. He compares this mess to his old holy faction, which everyone respected and practically worshipped. On the flip side, the Dasker crew, thanks to their dark arts, only caused disgust and terror wherever they went. Even so, it's public knowledge that Victor Dasker, the dad, is the most unbeatable warrior on Earth. Standing at the doors of the main hall, he gathers his guts to face the absolute worst relatives he's got. Walking tall, Noah marches into the room totally ready to throw his weight around. As he struts down the red carpet, the freezing atmosphere shuts up every family member in the room. Hitting the center of the hall, he announces loudly that he showed up exactly as the patriarch ordered. Scanning the faces around him, The hero does a quick check of all the competition in the room. The first guy he locks onto is the oldest Damien, who's rocking a massive suit of metal armor. Julia's cold, ruthless vibe screams, first daughter, energy. Further down, he spots C's, the second brother, looking completely bored and checked out. Nearby, young Eve looks totally annoyed, clearly hating these mandatory family meetups. But his eyes lock right onto Scar, the scumbag responsible for his spiked drink. Boiling on the inside, the MC notes that the jerk in the back almost sent him packing for no reason today. Breaking the ice, Julia throws shade, commenting that the rumors about the runt's recovery were actually true. Without filtering, he snaps back that he bounced back because he caught the poison trap and is getting back to the grind. Raising an eyebrow, the blonde looks the youngest brother up and down, surprised by his fearless new attitude. The third brother jumps in, mocking that it's a total waste of time investing in a weakling like him. Clapping back over the poisoning, Noah shuts the redhead down, telling him to grow a pair and do his own dirty work next time. Furious at the disrespect, Scar starts swearing and almost lunges to choke the MC out with his bare hands. The oldest brother raises an arm, shutting down the family drama, and demands absolute silence to kick off the ritual. A deafening boom echoes from the main gate, signaling the grand entrance of Patriarch Victor. Every footstep on the stairs freaks the room out, and the temperature plummets from sheer psychological terror. Instantly, all the competitors bow down, showing absolute submission to the boss. Sweeps down Scar's face just from breathing the same air as his terrifying dad. It's insane. The old man's energy is so crushing it almost makes the new Noah's legs give out too. The MC remembers that even in his prime, picking a fight with this gray-haired monster was straight up suicide. Holding the title of one of the 9 demonic stars, the Lord sits on his throne radiating pure killer intent. Chilling in his seat, the veteran looks at his kids, proud to see the whole roster gathered together. Keeping it brief, he orders the tournament protocols to start immediately at the top of the fortress. Staring a hole through the kid, the Patriarch asks for a solid high yes on him entering the games, and he gets exactly that. With a cruel tone, the old man asks what a scrawny kid like even expects to achieve in that death trap. Full of himself, the boy flashes a sly smirk like a guy who already mapped out his winning run. With pure arrogance, the hero predicts everyone here is going down and the Daskor throne will be his. Blown by the sheer audacity, the boss looks up, wondering how high the kid's fever actually is. The Lord sternly asks if the boy just declared a death match against every single one of his siblings. Defying expectations, Noah clarifies he isn't just planning to beef with the siblings in the room. He adds that his hit list includes literally anyone breathing the air in this grand hall. The kid spells it out. His lethal strikes aren't going to be limited just to his lovely brothers and sisters. Looking deep into the old man's eyes, he warns that the boss sitting in the chair is getting dropped too. The boldness on the dark-haired youth's face proves no one in this fortress is safe from his agenda. In response to the disrespect, the old demon unleashes a wave of prana that shakes the building's foundation. The air gets so heavy that the fancy side windows shatter, without anyone even touching them. Feeling a monumental weight on his spine, Noah clenches his jaw to keep from hitting the floor. Tanking the pressure, he realizes this old man's demonic energy is an uncontrollable glitch in the world. Thriving in the chaos, the Lord mocks the boy, asking if he seriously thinks he can tame power like this. Forcing his voice out, Noah confirms he can, without showing a single ounce of fear or hesitation. Actually impressed by the kid's grit, the Lord dials back the pressure and asks what his real goals are. The boy claims he's looking for absolute power to make sure nobody takes what's rightfully his. Fascinated by such massive ambition, the Patriarch's wrinkled face twists into a twisted smile. Thrilled by the arrogance, the old man claims the runt is finally showing the rotten personality this bloodline loves so much. He rubber stamps Noah's entry into the succession bloodbath and tells anyone who's mad about it to speak up or shut up. Stunned, the hares lower their voices, lacking the guts to talk back to the old demon. Looking at the dark-haired boy, Victor gives the final order, take out anyone who gets in the way of your level. Up. With the chaotic meeting over, morning brings a fake sense of peace to the courtyard's greenery. The MC is already burning calories, hitting the training dummies in the arena with everything he's got. A solid thud snaps the wooden dummy in half, showing he's getting used to his new morning routine. Checking how his body feels, he admits he's making progress but knows his build is still way too basic. The big issue here is the lack of syncs. Trying to mix holy power with this new body's corrupted vibes is a nightmare. Looking into these glitchy reactions, the Proto pulls up his virtual screen to see what the system has to say. The screen tells him this cursed combo causes severe burnout that lasts for a set amount of time. But his quiet investigation gets crashed by Julia, who was watching the whole yard while hiding in the shadows. Not holding back, the blonde comments that Dad totally shifted his favorite child status from boring Damien to the runt. Unbothered, the younger brother asks if she's here to throw hands or just chat, tossing a wooden sword at her feet. Offering up the wooden gear, he invites the noble girl to swap a few morning hits. Surprised the hero isn't scared, she picks up the stick just as he rushes in at top speed. She blocks his first jumping strike with a bored look on her face, making it clear who's actually running the show here. Smirking maliciously, the fighter warns him she doesn't take random morning strolls to the training yard for no reason. Crack the girl's defense, no size, realizing the massive stat gap between them. Suddenly, the girl throws a counterpunch, dropping the boy straight into the dirt. Surprisingly, he's actually pretty happy about eating dirt, since he basically just turned himself into a punching bag to farm her stats. The frantic clashing of swords kicks up a massive gale through the yard's greenery. Thinking he's way too weak, she throws wild strikes, forcing him to backpedal and exposing all his weak spots. She points her stick at his face, calling his bold attitude from yesterday's meeting a total joke. Glancing at his magic screen, he spots that the girl's physical strength is sitting at a solid 7 stars. In sweat, the veteran acknowledges her physical lead, flashing a purely sarcastic smirk. Sick of his nonsense, the girl throws a diagonal sweep, ripping up the wooden floorboards. Caught on the back foot, the speed of her attack jams his reflexes as he tries to block the hits. Running on pure instinct, their wooden weapons crash, sparking with raw, savage brutality. The force of the hit shoves the rookie all the way to the end of the hall, leaving him groaning with what feels like cracked ribs. The scare was so real that his hijack powers totally short-circuited while he was just trying to survive. Snapping back, he sprints forward and counters, creating a deafening boom. Intrigued by the mix of 2 colors, Julia questions where the heck that weird prana from the rumors actually came from. Acting all high and mighty, she claims she knows everything about the magical mutations in their family tree. The guy's quick mind figures there's a solid chance no servant here has ever even seen holy energy before. He smirks, plotting to use his mixed colors while passing it off as just a weird, evil mutation. Faking the whole vibe, he claims this biological glitch would make the blonde goddess of the sword cry. He spins fast, delivering a killer thrust wrapped in that chaotic mix of light and dark magic. Hyped up by the dangerous game, she says his name, totally ready to drop all kinds of destruction on his head. Right at the peak of the clash, the youth remembers the explicit order to eliminate and steal the siblings' cores. Taking her time, the maniac digs her heels into the floor, mocking his fiery attack as if it's nothing. A crimson blast erupts from her body as she calls on the demons to come collect his energy early. Swallowed by her overwhelming aura, the boy's wide eyes flash red as the sharp edge gets closer. Moving fast, the servant steps in by tossing Julia her actual, razor-sharp sword without a second thought. The weapon gratefully, while the crazy blonde completely drops her guard against real steel. The girl brings doom to the sky, pulling up abyssal tornadoes in a seriously terrifying display. Hit by volcanic flames, the poor guy dodges, but her smoke trails move with unbelievable speed. Drying out in the heat, he puts up a double guard, complaining that his sweat is evaporating way too fast. Just the swish of her clothes scorches the grass as she throws God, Tyr moves with her blade. Trapped in a firewall, Noah taps into his leftover holy tricks, crossing his arms in bitter desperation. Fired up, the blonde beast realizes the heavy hit she thought was a joke actually landed, and starts lecturing him. Landing a hit on the kid, she blackmails him, ordering him to show off the tricks the elders kept from him. Giving a final warning, the psycho sets the terms, promising a brutal knockout if he doesn't go all out right now. Chanting the shadow dance spell, a sea of red incinerates everything around them, mixing steel with prana. Seeing the lethal end of her attack, his split energy rings flare up, shielding his sword for the emergency. A hellish beam of purple ruin breaks the sound barrier, aiming to turn the opponent's bones to dust. Gulping hard, the kid's defenses slam into the solid wall of this cosmic elemental clash. The volcanic disaster wipes out the yard, making the nosy maids dive for cover. Through the smoky echoes, the beast mocks that blocking with just his arms won't even tickle a magma wave like hers. Trashing his lineage, she asks who gave him the right to bring bare fists to a knife fight with her claws. Shifting precisely to his blind spots, she summons dark slashes without a hint of hesitation. Backed by higher powers, the fatal strike misses, clashing with the enemy blade and causing some serious stress fractures. A massive impact turns everything upside down, throwing dust everywhere while the guy tries to recover on the hot sand. With an evil grin, the hero shouts and laughs at the fact that she has to use her full strength just to keep up. It was a pitiful sight, honestly. The counter-attack sent the poor dude flying uncontrollably through the air. Gritting his teeth, the veteran checks the witch's stats and realizes he's stuck in a corner no one gets out of easily. Digging his heel in, he instantly fires up his hidden holy circle before she can take his head off. The girl watches, curious as this golden aura overpowers the usual toxic vibes of their luxury murder house. Pushed to his absolute limit, his manifested divinity shows that the holy elixir saved him from the crazy family's coffins. Twitching tendons show the chronic backlash of abusing that sketchy hybrid limit. Affixing his stance, the youth asks if having bizarre conversations mid-fight is the golden rule of this cursed syndicate. Changing the subject, he shoots down her theories about why instant death isn't the norm in their bloody tournaments. Staring him down coldly, she drops the theory that stunting raw growth is just a standard part of their daily training grind. In short, wiping out weak siblings yields less energy than fattening up premium livestock in these divine slaughterhouses. To be exact, the quality of his counter-attack scored enough points to prove this rookie actually has some use. With killer instincts, she reveals her twisted tastes, declaring the perfect blend of powers she wants to devour. Exhausted by this noble assassin's trash talk, he internalizes the weight of this creature's worst nightmare. Using the 8th form, the corrupted master summons cataclysmic tornadoes, sealing the one-way ticket for his soul. Through the red curtains of fire, loud shouts interrupt the chaos, ordering a mandatory ceasefire for everyone. Covered in armor, the commander jumps into the flames, using his own blade to block the dirty axe thrown at the youngest kid's back. Shocked, the fighter demands the killer back off, pointing out she was seconds away from snipping the kid's life signs. The warrior begs the crazy girl not to ruin the ritual, reminding her that these fights need some noble tactics, not just mercy killings. With her weapon blocked, the sorceress stops and listens, totally baffled that the kid's energy reserves were barely worth 2 rusty coins. Panting just to stay alive, the youth checks out the armored guy, wondering what kind of madman steps into a crossfire like that for no reason. Playing it cool, the brown-haired fighter announces he was just running a background check on the kid under Patriarch Victor's direct orders. Sizing up the brawl, the instructor explains that if the MC actually had a 4 or 5-star core, he wouldn't be struggling this much. Seeing the fight's over, the hero shuts off his purple, divine aura, taking deep breaths to shake off the hit. Agreeing with the guy, the platinum-haired girl puts her weapon away and admits she totally misjudged the runt, since he's clearly still a weakling. Before bouncing, she warns her brother not to forget that his core is already on her radar to be snatched soon. Turning her back, she taunts him, saying that once he actually gets strong, they'll have a real fight, and she guarantees she'll end him then. Smirking with total confidence, the dark-haired youth says he can't wait for that, and he's just as excited to steal her powers. As the woman fades into the distance, the fighter's brain keeps telling him something is incredibly sketchy about the kid's energy. According to his scans, that blocked attack had way too much juice to be stopped by a measly 2-star power. Doing the math, the knight figures out the here is definitely hiding an ace up his sleeve. Far away in her room, the sister flashes a wicked smile, clearly enjoying the kid's glow up. On her balcony, she mutters to herself, hoping the brat levels up fast just to make the hunt a bit more fun. Meanwhile, in another wing of the fortress, Brother Scar is throwing a massive tantrum, smashing everything and cursing the kid's entire existence. Slumped in his chair and surrounded by terrified maids, the bitter redhead can't fathom how the loser got the green light to join the succession war. Eaten alive by jealousy, he remembers their dad never gave him the time of day and didn't even let him join the tournament initially. Furious over the disrespect, the coward throws a glass across the room, screaming that he won't put up with this joke. Right in the middle of his meltdown, a lackey sneaks in holding a fat dossier on the youngest brother. Hearing the update, the redhead flashes an evil grin, celebrating the intel like it's a gift from above. Full of nasty intentions, he swears on everything holy that he'll drag Noah down and kick him out of the succession line for good. Hours later in the yard, the brown-haired fighter finally gives our hero a proper introduction. Giving a slight bow, the guy says his name is Kyle, and that Lord Victor personally assigned him as the kid's new tutor. Explaining the deal, the master says the boss thought it would be super boring if the runt died too early, so he sent some backup. On the low, our MC triggers his hidden scan to peek at the guy's stats. It's crystal clear Kyle is a beast, rocking 6 and 7-star attributes, proving he's an absolute monster in a fight. Wasting zero time, the hero asks if they're starting with sparing or if there's a different game plan. Pulling out a sealed letter, the knight reveals he's got an urgent, direct order straight from the Patriarch himself. Reading the letter, the kid finds out the mission is to scout and wipe out a pool of dark miasma that popped up nearby. The system screen flashes, warning that the miasma is a hazard event and the area won't go back to normal unless the Lord creature gets clapped. Shrugging it off, the youth gets that this is just the old man's perfect excuse to throw him into a live fire test. Smirking on the inside, our hero sees this as a massive win and decides to use the mission to grind some levels away from the mansion's nosy eyes. Hitting the spooky woods, Sir Kyle doesn't mess around, slicing up the smaller mobs with surgical precision. He barks orders, telling the squad to keep up the pace and clear the zone before the miasma puddle spreads any further. From the back, the master watches our kid slash a bizarre monster, making black blood spray everywhere. Whispering among themselves, some of the grunts make fun of the MC, saying he must be terrified since he's only packing 2 stars of power. Ignoring the peanut gallery, Kyle wonders what the heck the patriarch actually saw in this kid to send him on a real extermination run. Suddenly, a soldier yells, pointing everyone's attention right to the middle of the clearing. Rushing over, the squad finds a bunch of unconscious kids on the ground, and the vibe gets instantly heavy. The knight looks at the squad, asking what the play is now that civilians are mixed up in this mess. Without second guessing, he decides that hiking back through murder, forest carrying kids is a death sentence, so they need to nuke the puddle first. Lugging the kids on their backs, they push deeper into the woods, which are getting creepier by the minute. Looking at the dark sky, our hero notices the evil energy is spiking at a seriously alarming rate. Twisted trees and a purple haze start blanketing the area, meaning they've hit the boss room. Super focused, the proto warns that the core of the miasma is right on top of them, and the Lord Monster is definitely home. Out of nowhere, a massive shadow bursts through the leaves, jumping straight at the squad. Gripping his blade, Kyle yells that it's a giant scorpia, and things just went from bad to worse. With a deafening crash, the demonic scorpion lands, and Kyle screams at his men to get the kids out of the splash zone. Stressed out, the master explains the miasma juice buffed the monster to A rank, and its shell is tougher than steel. In a flash, the colossal tail with a razor, sharp stinger drops like a meteor right on their heads. On high alert, the MC shouts the attack is coming and braces for impact. The crash blasts dirt and leaves everywhere, forcing the knight to cross his swords so he doesn't get squashed flat. Blown away by the beast's raw power, the master warns that this thing isn't just heavy. It's freakishly fast. Seeing the tail wind up again, he panics, totally sure our 2-star hero is about to get skewered. Moving like a blur, the toxic needle shoots at the kid, tearing through the air. But shocking everyone, the boy fires up his hybrid demon core, wrapping his weapon in an energy shield. With a perfect spin, he catches the strike, his boots dragging through the dirt while sparks fly off the stinger. His parry is so solid it knocks the stinger upward, buying them a split second to breathe. Stunned, the knight cheers seeing the block, but quickly realizes the scorpia's real trick is something else. From the tip of its tail, the scorpion fires toxic needles that glow like emerald bullets. With nowhere to run, the squad is pinned down under a lethal rain of pure poison. Making things worse, the giant stinger starts glowing red, meaning the monster is charging a nuke right in the middle of the chaos. Showing zero mercy, the beast fires an intense red laser straight from its tail, aiming to vaporize the whole squad. Quick as lightning, the kid pumps more hidden holy energy into his purple core to tank the blast. In a massive explosion, the hero parries the beam, splitting the attack in half and sending the energy shooting into the sky. Lone, the soldiers whisper that the kid is a completely unreal sword prodigy, even with his supposedly weak stats. But through the dust, the scorpion's tail twitches again, shaking off the hit and ready to deal out death. Like a massive missile, the monster throws itself at the MC, using all its armored weight to crush him. Sliding right under the attack, the dark-haired youth takes the opening and slams his glowing blade into the beast's belly. Even swinging with everything he's got, he feels the sword get stuck in the thing's tough bone plates. Spinning mid-air, the kid unleashes a flurry of holy light slashes hidden in dark energy, cracking the scorpion's armor. He touches down right after, panting, and digs his heels into the dirt to stay steady. Checking out the cracked shell, he mutters to himself that this stupid bug is way too tanky. Sweating cold, the proto whispers that breaking through is going to be rough unless he goes all out with his original holy moves. Meanwhile, Tutor Kyle is just frozen, trying to figure out where the kid learned this insane sword style without ever having a teacher. Cutting to the chase, the boy yells at the knight to actually help fight instead of just standing there gawking, and the guy snaps to it immediately. Ready to jump in, the hero asks if the master can buy him literally 1 second of an opening, and the guy promises he's got it covered. Without flinching, the instructor roars and charges the target while the monster reloads its fatal red laser. With a brutal strike, Kyle jams his blade right into a cracked armor joint, making the bug scream in agony. The hit sprays neon green goo everywhere, completely ruining the scorpion's charge up. Taking that half-second window, the hero launches into the air, wrapped in the purple and gold energy of his dual core. Dropping fast, he lands on the tail and chops the stinger clean off with one flawless strike. Black fluid sprays from the stump, and the proto kicks off the base of the tail to put some space between them. Before even hitting the ground, the dark-haired youth fixes his posture and preps the finishing move. Flooding his sword with pure combo energy, he cuts through the air like lightning, slicing the beast clean in half. The shockwave of the final blow shatters the forest floor, creating a massive crater filled with dust. Crashing hard into the dirt, the giant scorpion twitches a couple of times before finally biting the dust for good. Though with the beast dead, our hero puts his sword away, breathing a huge sigh of relief that his crazy plan actually worked. Suddenly, the monster's corpse starts melting into some foul-smelling smoke, showing off something shiny left behind inside. Wasting no time, the kid walks up and rips the toxic fangs out of the creature, stashing them in his jacket. Flashing a wicked grin, he tells Tutor Kyle that the venom in these fangs melts heavy armor and is going to be super handy later on. Totally dumbfounded, the master finally realizes why the kid went out of his way to hunt the smaller bugs on the way here. Just to farm this acid. Barely getting a second to catch their breath, red eyes start glowing in the pitch black woods all around them. A massive horde of mutated freaks steps out of the shadows, drawn in by the smell of blood and the miasma puddle. Instantly, the kid snaps his fingers, lighting up green magic symbols on the ground, right under the team. Using his demonic sword style, he shoots a wave of energy to push the frontline monsters back. The blast kicks up dust and stalls the horde for a few priceless seconds. Panicking, Tutor Kyle slams his sword into the ground, popping a massive purple shield to protect the knocked out kids. Cold as ice, the proto points out it's do or die time and there's absolutely nowhere to run. Pulling off an insane jump, he dives straight into the mob, dicing up spiders and wolves like they're made of paper. Moving impossibly fast, he shreds a smaller scorpion, leaving nothing but chunks behind. The sheer force of his swings creates a shockwave that clears the whole zone around the protective barrier. Spinning his sword coated in hidden holy light, the hero dodges a lunge and takes a demon wolf's head clean off. The image of his platinum-haired sister pops into his head as he tries to remember exactly how her ultimate move worked. Tweaking his family's dark style, he forces his energy to copy the shadow fire that almost toasted him earlier. Pushing his limits, he funnels all his power and screams the attack's name. Sword dance of light and shadow. In a massive explosion of gold lightning and purple energy, he fires a beam of pure destruction that wipes out half the forest, vaporizing any monster in its path. The flash is so bright it lights up the night sky, making even Instructor Kyle squeeze his eyes shut from the glare. Chunks of armor and monster guts evaporate into thin air, leaving the path completely scrubbed clean by the energy blast. Sweating bullets, the soldiers look at the crater and mutter, wondering if that's seriously what a two-star kid can do. Even with the win, our hero sighs, annoyed, realizing that copying his sister's move just by watching was way harder than he thought, and the result was pretty mid. Giving the kid a light pat on the shoulder, Knight Kyle praises the stunt and volunteers to clean up the trash mobs left over. Curious, the tutor asks where the kid is heading, since he just turned his back and started walking deeper into the dead woods. Without looking back, the dark-haired youth just says he has to take care of a personal errand and vanishes into the brush. Walking solo, the proto thinks about how, back in his timeline, nobody knew where these miasma pools actually came from. But he's got the inside scoop, claiming this whole mess is caused by a mystical gadget built to suck negative energy out of the dirt. Hitting a clearing, he spots a huge, twisted tree spitting out that nasty purple smoke. Swinging his sword, he chops into the hollow trunk with one clean hit. Inside the hole, a creepy ring is just floating there glowing, the obvious culprit for all this chaos. Smirking a little, he notes his guess was spot on and gets ready to smash the magic item. Suddenly, a panic scream echoes from where he left the rescue squad, putting the kid on instant high alert. Eyes wide, he curses and breaks into a sprint, guessing something went horribly wrong. Moving at top speed, our hero weaves through the trees, jumping smoothly through the shadows. Making it back to the start, he sees absolute nightmare fuel, wounded soldiers, and the kid still passed out and defenseless on the ground. Freaking out, Instructor Kyle yells that something got totally messed up, and the monster count just tripled out of nowhere. Gripping his sword, the proto checks the field and sees a red tide of bloodthirsty eyes completely surrounding the squad. Hundreds of wolves, scorpions, and other ugly freaks pour out of the dark in an endless wave they can't possibly hold off. Staring death in the face, the soldiers lose it, and even Kyle looks like his gas tank is completely empty. To buy some time, the youth attacks like a madman, throwing gold and purple lightning to blast away anything trying to touch the civilians. The master doesn't back down either, crossing the front line and dealing heavy blows to the bigger monsters. Begging for a miracle, one of the soldiers cheers when the young master comes back, thinking they're saved. Totally focused, the dark-haired youth tells Kyle to hold the line while he handles the monster army with a little creativity. Closing his eyes, the kid tracks the weird flow of miasma energy being soaked up by the sleeping kids. Looking closer, he realizes the cursed ring is using the kids as a biological filter to refine the demonic energy. In the middle of the bloodbath, the knight yells that the team won't last another 30 seconds in this meat grinder. Smiling, our hero announces he's going to hack the magic item's signal using his own holy core. Stabbing his sword into the dirt, he projects a massive golden magic circle, severing the ring's psychic link to its owner and hijacking the whole setup. With his eyes glowing bright, he rides the reversed energy to track down the ring bearer using the spell's backlash. Deep in the woods, a camouflaged creep with red eyes feels the counter. Hacken panics realizing he's been spotted. Making a split-second call, the Proto orders Tutor Kyle to strictly protect the kids and fall back. Meanwhile, the kid vanishes in a blur, wiping out a line of orcs and wolves with crazy fast strikes and scaling the trees. Tracking the spell's source, he lands hard on a branch, staring down the camo, wearing guy who was pulling the strings. Far from the main brawl, the bad guy tries to melt into the shadows, but it's way too late to run. Pointing his glowing sword right at the dude, the hero warns that he's already locked onto him and tells the coward to show his face. Out of options, the villain jumps off the branch, throwing toxic blades right at the kid. Spinning his sword like a fan, our MC deflects the projectiles mid-air, showering blue sparks everywhere. Landing on the dirt, the villain sizes up his rival, grumbling that the kid is way more annoying than his file claimed. Snarky as ever, the masked guy asks if the Dasker family's rot has already gotten to the hair for him to have raider-like senses. Keeping his cool, the youth fires back, demanding to know what loser ordered this whole freak show. Laughing, the opponent says there's no way he's snitching on his boss, to which the Proto promises he'll just beat the answers out of him. In a brutal clash, both swords smash together, sparking a blast of purple and gold energy that shakes the trees around them. Caught off guard by the kickback, the villain goes wide-eyed, completely stunned by the sheer power of that hybrid demon core. Kinda surprised by his own strength, the dark-haired youth checks out his glowing blade, admitting he still doesn't totally get how this crazy combo works. Spotting the enemy hesitate, the Proto immediately gets into his stance, bending his knees to launch an attack. Firing up the shadow style, he mutters the second form and pulls intense red energy into his sword. In a flash, dozens of floating swords made of pure crimson energy spawn in the air, pointing right at the masked guy. Directing the attack, he unleashes the storm of red blades at the target in a massive ow strike. Dodging like a madman, the villain zips through the trees while the swords blow up the ground right on his heels. Smiling, the kid realizes the Dasker family's shadow tech meshes perfectly with his core. With a burst of speed, the MC rushes in alongside his floating swords, throwing a heavy swing right at his opponent. Crossing his short blades, the masked guy blocks the hit, but coughs up blood from the crushing weight. Totally confused, the rival checks his own stat scanner and sees the hero is still listed as a measly level 2 demon core. Running the numbers, the guy figures out the kid's sword skills are light years ahead of his actual energy level. Thinking he found the weak spot, the villain decides to keep his distance and just kite the kid until he gasses out. Firing off another wave of red slashes, the dark-haired youth notices the strategy and clicks his tongue, annoyed. Sliding through the mud, the coward slips out of sword range and starts laughing behind his mask. Backing off, the hero pauses his attack while the villain gets ready to spam long-range spells. Mocking the whole situation, the masked guy raises his arm and charges up some nasty green energy in his fingertips. With insane speed, he shoots blasts of cutting wind that look like invisible blades right at the boy. Laughing at the kid's face, the villain gloats that such an obvious frontal attack is way too easy to handle. Except the Proto's red blades slice the green wind right down the middle, deleting the spell on the spot. Instantly, the hero drops off the villain's radar and respawns right above him, his sword glowing in a sick gold and purple combo. With a cold smirk, the kid whispers the name of his old holy style, mashed up with his new dark vibes. The energy explodes in a tornado of light and shadows, dropping the brand new remix, Shadow Light Glide. Shell, shocked, the villain barely has time to flinch before getting shredded by fast slashes from every angle. Panicking, the masked guy screams, recognizing the forbidden technique, and asks how the hell the youngest kid knows how to use it. Trying to bail from the blender of blades, the guy jumps back, covered in bleeding cuts. Not giving him a breather, the dark-haired youth closes the gap and tells the opponent he's way too slow to run away now. With one clean, flawless strike, the sword slices across the villain's chest, spraying vital fluid into the bushes. Collapsing to his knees, the coward hacks uncontrollably, feeling his life bar drain fast. Looking down at the beaten opponent, the MC casually mentions he figured out how the move worked just by getting beaten up by his psycho sister. Flashing back to the platinum-haired girl using dark flames, he explains that mixing divine energy with Dasker family logic makes it super easy to just invent broken techniques on the fly. Thinking out loud, the hero figures he could probably copy every move from the glorious lineage if he just focused on holy light. But a second later, he shakes his head, admitting that cheap knockoffs don't win wars, and the real juice of this hybrid power will only show when he makes his own moves from scratch. Walking up to the bleeding villain, he points his sword right at the guy's throat and demands to know who ordered the hit. Spitting blood, the assassin lets out a creepy laugh and tells the kid not to get a big head just because he won a minor skirmish. Moving fast, the coward bites down on a pill hidden in his teeth and swallows some sketchy chemical. Eyes wide, the kid realizes the guy just popped some kind of nasty steroid to juice his body. Shaking violently, the opponent's body glows a rusty green, and he starts screaming in agony. In a totally gross process, the guy's muscles rip through his clothes, swelling up like balloons while his skin turns cement gray. His face twists into an actual monster's, and his pupils glow a bright, radioactive red. With an animal roar that shakes the forest floor, the giant freak pounds his own chest to announce his arrival. Grossed out by the mutation, the proto takes a step back, guessing the guy used some illegal beast morphing spell. Wasting no time, the massive beast jumps at the hero, swinging claws the size of machetes. Spinning his sword, the dark-haired youth blocks the first swing, but his whole arm goes numb from the impact. The beast's raw power is so nuts that just the clash creates a crater right under their feet. Sliding backward, the proto grits his teeth, realizing the monster's speed and weight just leveled up big time, and his weapon is going to snap if he keeps tanking hits head on. Laughing like a maniac, the creature roars, daring the kid to show how many hits he can actually take. Unleashing a storm of attacks, the beast charges forward, wrecking everything in its path and forcing the hero to just dodge and backpedal. The monster's glowing red eyes lock onto the target in the dark, giving him zero room to breathe. With one swipe of its claws, the creature fires 3 wind blades that chop down the nearby trees like nothing. Barely dodging, the proto blocks the leftover wind with his sword and notes that things are getting pretty spicy. Tired of playing defense, the kid tries to counter, but the beast is way too fast and immediately throws another heavy claw swipe. Feeling the pressure, the hero jumps away, using purple energy to bounce off the rocks. He takes a grazing hit that sends him spinning out of control. Landing rough, the dark-haired youth jams his sword into the dirt to avoid face, planting and lets out a groan. Gripping his weapon with both hands, he realizes he can't just play dodgeball forever and needs to open up a weak spot ASAP. Closing his eyes for a sec, he focuses his hybrid core, and the sword starts pulsing with pure holy and demonic juice. Seeing the hero standing still, the beast jumps into the sky, laughing loud and asking if the kid finally gave up. Thinking he's got this in the bag, the monster drops like a meteor, screaming that he's going to crush the kid's head right there. Smiling, the proto opens his eyes, flashing an ominous glow, and announces that playtime is officially over. Out of nowhere, the kid's left hand flashes an insanely bright white light, blinding the monster mid-drop. With an ear-splitting crack, the light erupts into a perfect geometric magic shield, completely blocking the beast's massive dive. Bouncing off his own momentum, the giant monster gets launched back into the air, spinning out of control and roaring in frustration. Holding his sword tight, the proto mentally celebrates, realizing he actually pulled off recreating the magic shields from his past life, using the hybrid core. Not giving the enemy an inch, the kid bends his knees and leaps right at the monster while it's still trying to right itself in the air. Cornered with zero footing, the giant freak is left wide open. Pointing his sword at the sky, the hero yells the name of his brand, New Holy Demonic Style, ready to send this bug back to the lobby. A blazing golden aura wraps around the kid's weapon, lighting up the pitch black night like it's noon. With a devastating downward swing, he calls out dual polarity single blade, chopping the monster in half in an explosion of pure light and shadow. The attack is so overpowered it splits the clouds and shreds the nearby trees with the wind pressure alone. Touching down smoothly, the dark-haired youth breathes a sigh of relief, admitting that Magic's shield really saved his bacon at the last second. Looking at his left hand, he admires the Ring of Absolute Repulsion, a super handy gadget that stops heavy attacks and bounces the damage back as a shockwave. With the job done and the toy put away, he sheathes his sword, noting it's time to hustle back to Kyle's squad before things hit the fan over there. Far away, the situation is a total mess with the Knight's team getting overrun by the endless army of orcs and wolves. Panting and covered in cuts, Tutor Kyle grips his blade with shaky hands, realizing his tank is totally empty. Capitalizing on the opening, a massive orc jumps behind the soldiers, ready to smash the master's head in with a giant rock club. Stressed out, the knight curses, seeing the stone weapon already coming down on his skull. But before it hits, the master hears a loud metallic clang and opens his eyes, totally confused. Frozen in place, he sees the monster stone club stop mid-air, literally millimeters from his face, blocked by something. The dust clears, and he realizes the entire monster army is either paralyzed or dropping dead, like the summon spell just got unplugged. Catching his breath, the instructor's eyes go wide when he hears the hero casually asking if everyone's still in one piece. Still panning, Kyle stammers and nods, admitting he just survived by some bizarre miracle. Walking up to the group, the proto calmly mentions he already sorted out the bug issue and took out the guy controlling the beasts. Tossing the masked guy's bloody gloves as proof, the kid says he dropped the target, but still doesn't know who put out the hit. In the middle of the clearing, the kids start waking up, cuffing and crying, finally letting the squad relax a bit. Looking at the rescued kids, the hero flashes a happy smile, glad this whole side quest was actually worth it. Fast forward to back at the Dasker mansion, the morning is pretty chill, but our boy's brain is working in overdrive. Feeling guilty, he remembers that innocent kids almost died just because of this stupid family tournament, and he is absolutely not cool with that. Focused on finding the scumbag who set the trap, the Proto remembers a very useful detail about his sister, Eve. Based on family gossip, she's the official info broker and definitely knows exactly who was pulling the masked guy's strings. Striding across the courtyard, the hero runs into his brother Seize, who already has his hand on his sword and tells him to stop right there. Flexing his authority, the blonde brother warns that not even family members are allowed into Eva's zone without an invite. Standing face to face outside, the tension spikes, and the Proto clearly isn't backing down. In the hero's mind, he knows this mysterious sister is his only shortcut to the truth. From what he's squeezed out of the maids, she absolutely knows who bought that lethal ambush. Out of patience for the runaround, the kid fires up his hybrid demon core, steps up, and tells his brother to move. Laughing, the blonde draws his short blades, claiming that as her bodyguard, he can't just let some angry dude walk in. Pushing buttons, Seize tells him straight up he doesn't trust the runt at all, so they're gonna have to talk with their swords. His fists. Our hero realizes diplomacy has left the chat and readies his weapon. Flaring up his purple and gold aura, he yells that he'll just have to smash his way through without holding back. With a slick grin, the bodyguard cracks his neck, totally down for a brawl, and drops into his fighting stance. In a split second, they both rush in, tearing up the stone floor and slamming their weapons together hard. The clash kicks up dust and sparks, sending out a shockwave that rattles the mansion's windows. Pushing back against the MC's blade, the blonde proves he's got some serious muscle despite using short swords. Trading lightning-fast strikes, they slice up the air, creating sharp wind currents all over the yard. Sliding back, they both create some space to gauge each other's power level before round 2. Not giving him a breather, Seize raises an arm and drops a massive red magic circle on the ground. Stone Spear. He summons a giant pointy rock right under the protagonist's feet. Spotting the trap, the kid barely dodges to the side, almost getting his legs skewered by the rock. Flipping through the air, the hero preps an aerial slash, but his brother is already casting another spell. Spamming attacks, the blonde shoots sharp rock fragments like homing missiles. Slamming his hand into the dirt, Seize triggers, crushing fangs of rock blade, making dozens of stone swords erupt and trash the area. Cornered by the earth spikes, our hero wonders if this guy is actually weaving earth magic directly into his swordplay. Tearing through the air, the brother moves crazy fast through the rocks, ready to slice the kid up. The crossing blades again, the friction sends sparks flying, and the Proto really feels the ridiculous weight behind every swing. Using his speed, the hero dodges and fires back with a deadly dance of slashes, leaving trails of light and dirt all over the yard. Locked into the fight, the blonde doesn't let up the pressure, constantly throwing spells while jabbing with his swords. Swatting away a flying rock, the Proto shatters his brother's guard with his glowing weapon. Sizing up the fight, the kid uses his scanner and realizes rushing in blindly is a death wish, since the guy's style is totally wild. Reading the HUD, he sees C's physical stats are at a solid 5 stars, proving he's absolutely not a rookie. Connecting the dots, the dark-haired youth figures out the blonde covers his low-tier core by using weird combos of rock magic and sword skills. Determined to end this game of tag, our hero announces he's just gonna brute force this with his own core. Charging his power, he fires up Sword Dance of Light Shadow, loading his blade with pure holy and dark energy. The ground cracks from the pressure of the incoming attack, and a tornado of power blows up in the middle of the yard. Shocked by how bright it is, Seize takes a step back, asking himself if this monster is really his weak little brother. Feeling the ground shake, the blonde braces for impact, digging his feet into the broken stones. Reacting fast, the brother activates the Dark Lightning style, and his short blades start popping with intense red sparks. In a quick dash, he calls out the instant Black Bolt, attack and vanishes into thin air like a camera flash. Focused, the Proto recognizes the move, remembering Tutor Kyle's crash course on the family's dirty tricks. In the kid's mind, the teacher explains that the lightning style is all about throwing undodgeable attacks using pure speed. Mocking him, the blonde reappears, bouncing off invisible walls and praising the runt for knowing his family lore. But immediately after, he flashes an evil smile and warns that knowing the theory and eating the attack are two very different things. Staring down the danger, our hero shouts, taking the attack head on without backing up an inch. Spinning his red lightning blades, Seize charges in like a lethal thunderbolt, aiming right for the kid's throat. The trail of dark energy completely destroys the scenery, leaving a straight line of pure ruin. At the very last millisecond, the Proto slams his gold sword into the red lightning, causing a blast that blinds everyone watching. Yelling with everything he's got, the hero tries to push back the electric charge, dumping every ounce of his hybrid core into the block. But the pressure from the brother's hit is just too much, and a shockwave sends the kid flying backward, carving trenches into the stone with his shoes. The final blast scatters debris everywhere, kicking up a massive cloud of dust in the yard. As the smoke clears a little, you can see the ruined statues scattered around, and total silence takes over the area. Sliding across the ground, our MC spits a little blood, feeling his muscles burn from the brutal impact. Panting hard, he grips his shaky sword and notices he caught a grazing cut on his arm, even after blocking with all his might. The blonde lands softly on the other side, but he's also looking pretty tired, showing that the attack burned a ton of his gas. Annoyed, the hero clicks his tongue, admitting that sword for dance of light and shadow totally failed to stop that direct hit. Analyzing the flop, he figures out that copycat moves have a serious power cap compared to the original ones. Thinking fast, he realizes he needs to stop relying on simulations and quickly invent his own original move using the hybrid core, or he's getting clapped next time. Out of nowhere, a calm, bossy voice echoes, ordering both of them to knock off the clown's show right now. Stepping out of the mansion in dark clothes, Sister Eve appears looking completely bored, shutting down the sibling brawl. Cut to the fancy office, the vibe is super tense with everyone sitting in expensive chairs. Straight to the point, the girl crosses her legs and asks what the hell that fight outside was all about. Defending himself, the blonde explains the runt showed up looking for a fight, and as the bodyguard, he had to stop him from busting in. Not buying that excuse, the proto fires back, asking why anyone in the Dasker family would even need a bodyguard in the first place. Taking a sip of her tea, Sister Eve calmly replies that she has zero talent for physical fighting and that her brain is her actual weapon. Confused by the mess, Blonde C's asks what the kid actually wants with their sister to go kicking doors down. Eve takes over, confirming the boy is here to find out who hired that squad of assassins in the woods. Surprised, our hero's eyes go wide, asking how she already knows about the ambush when he literally just got back. Flashing a slightly arrogant smile, the girl claims there's very little on this planet she doesn't know about. Putting her teacup down, she mentions she'd love to drop the intel for free since he's her cute little brother, but in the Dasker family, everything has a price. Knowing the house rules, the dark-haired youth nods and asks straight up what she wants for the info. Building the hype, the sister asks if the kid has ever heard of a weird place called the Infinite Library. She explains it's a colossal maze, nobody knows how big it actually is, and the folks who go too deep never wake up. Because of the insane knowledge locked inside, scholars and explorers built a whole town around the library's entrances just to manage the research. Getting to business, Eve orders the hero to go into that cursed hole and fetch a legendary book called the Tome of Eternal Depths. Eyes wide, the boy recognizes the name immediately, remembering that this is the exact book that completely changed magic theory in his past life. He knows for a fact that the spells in this book saved thousands of soldiers during the war against the Red Invaders. Thinking fast, the proto figures if he grabs this book right now, a whole decade before the world ends, he can totally change humanity's future. Without hesitating, our hero puts on a serious face and agrees to grab the book for her. Sealing the deal, Eve flashes a tiny smile, confirming their shady little contract. A while later, a noisy carriage rattles over the stone roads, heading to their new destination. Chilling with the maid, the MC looks out the window, scouting the route, while the servant looks a bit carsick. Pulling into the town of Arcanum, the youth sees massive buildings and a place buzzing with energy and mercenary fighters. As soon as he hops out, he immediately feels the heavy vibe of an explorer's hub. The maid explains that the Infinite Library maze is so confusing that anyone who walks in without a guide ends up starving to death in there. Walking through the busy streets, the hero passes by bounty hunters and some really weird mages. He heads straight for a shady alley, looking for a very specific broker in this part of town. Stopping in front of an old building with funky architecture, the boy checks out the storefront. Inside, the place looks like an abandoned pawn shop, completely covered in dust and cobwebs. A tired-looking guy behind the counter asks what the customers want. Suddenly, the scene cuts back to Eva's office, where she's still sipping tea, but now with Brother Scar. With a sarcastic smirk, the redhead says he wants to ask a few questions about Little No. Showing zero reaction, the sister takes another sip, looking like she already knew this guy was going to be a headache. Sighing, the girl points out it's pretty rare for the redhead to actually visit her private office. Smirking back, he gives a crooked smile and says he needs to borrow his sister's brains and resources for a bit. Sitting down, Scar asks where Bodyguard Sees is, wondering why the door was left wide open. Totally chill, Eve replies that Dad sent the blonde out on an urgent errand, so he had to leave in a hurry. The redhead's grin gets bigger, realizing his sister is all alone and unguarded right now. Keeping her cool, the girl warns him she's got some very capable employees managing the shadows, so she's definitely not helpless. Mocking her, the brother claims he expected that kind of attitude from her and demands the intel on the youngest kid right now. Staring at his own hands, the redhead says he wants to know where the brat got enough juice to go toe-to-toe with Julia right after waking up from poison. Clenching his fist, he slams the desk, demanding the secret behind that ridiculous power. He even throws it in her face that the runt beat the pro-assassins he hired himself. Putting her cup down gently, Eve replies dryly that, unfortunately, she can't help him out with that. Sternly, she explains that selling info of that level would completely break the balance of the succession war. Then she lays down the law as an info broker. She has to treat all the siblings equally so she doesn't end up with a knife in her back while she sleeps. Furious, the redhead stands up, asking if she's seriously refusing to play ball with him. Without blinking, the sister stares him down and asks if he really thinks he has enough cash or clout to make her risk her own neck in a messy game like this. Laughing like a psycho, Scar claims she'll find out real soon what kind of payment he's bringing to the table. Right then, a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes pops up behind the girl, ready to strike. Meanwhile, in Arcanum, the Proto stares at the massive infinite library building in the distance. Walking the streets, he ignores the pushy merchants and stays locked on his goal. Turning the corner of a sketchy alley, he finds the exact shop the maid recommended. Pushing the heavy door, the bell rings, and he gets a whiff of mold and ancient magic in the air. Muttering to himself, the kid says he finally made it, and gets a weird wave of nostalgia from his past life. From the back of the messy shop, a sloppy-looking guy walks out, saying they're closed, and tells the customer to bounce. Scanning his system HUD, the MC confirms the guy's name is Osrek and quickly says he's not here to buy magic junk, he wants to hire the guy as a maze guide. Losing patience, the shopkeeper rejects the job, claiming he doesn't guide people into the deep zones anymore. Questioning his rep, the hero asks if he isn't the guy who knows the entire maze better than the back of his hand. Annoyed, the man yells, telling the kid to stop bugging him and get out. Confused by the hard no, the MC asks straight up why the best guide in town suddenly quit his day job. Slapping the counter, the shopkeeper snaps that it's a personal issue and a random kid can't help him anyway. Noticing the look of pure despair on the guy's face, the boy stays quiet, realizing this goes pretty deep. Dropping his head, shopkeeper Osrek apologizes for losing his cool, admitting his mental state has been a mess lately. Before the Proto can answer, the shop bell rings again, breaking the heavy tension in the room. As the door opens, heavy boots step on the floor, and a platinum-haired woman walks in oozing arrogance. Eyes wide, the hero recognizes his sister Julia, who kicks off the conversation by sarcastically asking if her baby brother is doing well. Curious, the kid asks if she's stalking him, but the blonde casually says she just spotted him while running an errand and tagged along out of pure curiosity. Stunned, the shopkeeper jumps and screams, asking if she's the famous Julia from the cursed Dasker family. Pointing at the MC, she confirms it and announces the kid next to her is also one of the monsters from their family tree. Hearing that, Osrek's face totally changes, and he promises to take the guide job if the blonde joins their party for the maze run. Confused, the hero questions the sudden change of heart and figures the guy's personal issue must involve monsters. Waving them over, the shopkeeper tells them to follow him to the back of the rundown store. In a dark room, there's a woman lying on a bed, looking as pale as a corpse. The guy explains that a month ago, his partner got cursed by some freak monster down in the deep zones of the library. In his mind, he flashes back to a bizarre beast wrapped in red energy and shadows. The curse puts the victim into a deep coma that slowly eats away their life until their heart just stops. Checking the woman out, the blonde confirms the only way to break the hex is to kill the monster that cast it, and the shopkeeper cries, saying every merc he hired just got slaughtered in the maze. Without wasting time, the blonde agrees to go into the maze to save the guy's partner, but immediately throws down a condition. Pointing at our MC, she warns that the kid absolutely has to join the monster hunt with her. Curious about the runt's power, she admits her real goal is to watch how the kid fights up close. Seeing her attitude, the youth realizes his older sister still has major doubts about his actual strength. Chill about the challenge, our hero agrees to the deal and tells the shopkeeper to pack their supplies. Pumped about the chance to save his partner, the guy thumps his chest and promises to navigate them flawlessly. Standing right in front of the Infinite Library's colossal building, the trio gets ready to step into the hunter's nest. On the walk over, the Proto probes a bit, asking what she actually meant by that secret. Comment back at the shop. Thinking back to their fight in the yard, the woman explains she felt some weird energy holding her power back, and it definitely wasn't just his demon core. Flashing a sharp smile, the blonde warns that the maze is the perfect stage for the kid to show off whatever trick he's hiding. Trying to lighten the mood, the guide shows up carrying a ton of bags and apologizes for the delay. Cutting to the chase, our hero rounds up the squad, and they start heading for the building's entrance. Crossing the lobby gates, they walk past a bunch of mercenaries gearing up to dive into the deep zones. Carrying the heavy bags, the guide notes that his life is literally in the hands of the sibling duo now. Off to the side, some explorers gossip, pointing at the guide and betting his group is definitely the next one to wipe. Locked on the goal, the trio stands before the library's massive doors, ready for whatever is on the other side. Putting his hands on the cold stone, the merchant pushes the heavy doors open, unlocking the maze. Immediately, a blue light floods the area, wrapping the whole team in a mystical teleport spell. Traveling through space, the group gets yanked hard into the insane interior of the building. Touching down inside, they're greeted by bookshelves the size of skyscrapers stretching endlessly into the distance. Blown away by the scale of the place, the blonde admits that without a guide, they'd easily die lost in this maze. Looking at floating walkways and endless halls, it's pretty clear this whole place is a lethal puzzle. Checking out the scenery, our hero's eyes widen when he spots a really creepy detail on the walls. Giant murals show the ancient war against the invader coalition that wrecked his world in the past. Putting the pieces together quickly, the kid realizes this library is directly connected to the Cataclysm monsters. His mind flashes to bloody images of the red giants slaughtering humanity without mercy. Flashing a confident smile, the MC figures he might find some weak spot here to beat those freaks in the future. Snapping back to reality, he remembers the main goal is still grabbing the Tome of Eternal Depths for Sister Eve. Heading down the massive halls, the guide starts explaining how the library's bizarre floor system works. Checking his mental map, the merchant warns that the restricted book they want only spawns around the 20th floor. Frowning, the hero points out that making it to floor 20 is a flex almost nobody has pulled off yet. Walking across the dark tiles, they spot a blue magic circle glowing on the floor. Step by step, the team walks up to the teleport spell that connects the maze's levels. Right as they're about to jump, a squad of giant, axe-wielding orcs spawns in front of the circle to block them. Shaking with fear, the guide warns that monsters always camp the warp zones and asks if the siblings can handle it. Drawing his sword casually, our prota declares this isn't even a speed bump. With a brutal dash, the kid chops the shielded orc in half with one hit, splashing hybrid light across the floor. Not holding back, the blonde also draws her blade and starts slicing the air around the creatures. In a matter of seconds, the heavy beasts drop dead, chopped to pieces before they even realize what hit them. Totally traumatized by how aggressive these two are, the guide gulps while the sister tells him to pick up the pace immediately. Now on the 10th floor, the group walks calmly down some darker, rounded hallways. Lugging the huge bags, the merchant leads the way, sweating bullets but still guiding the Dasker monsters. Passing through a stone arch, they hit another transition zone in the maze. Right away, they see another massive magic circle glowing in the middle of a dark room. Standing in front of the light, the team takes a deep breath and gets ready to dive even deeper into the hole. Instantly, the spell swallows the trio, launching them down into the library's heavy depths. Flash pops, blinding everyone for a quick second. Blinking to adjust his eyes, the prota instantly goes on high alert, noticing the temperature dropping like a rock. Landing in a huge room, the guide warns that they finally hit the plaza that leads to the fabled 20th floor. Pointing into the dark, the merchant's voice shakes as he says the floor boss is sitting right over there. Moving slowly, the team gets closer to the middle of the plaza where the shadows seem to actually be alive. Suddenly, the symbols on the floor start flashing, reacting to the threat waking up. Out of nowhere, dark thorny branches start shooting out of the floor, forming a freakish monster. Rocking glowing red eyes on its solid trunk, an imposing ancient Trent spawns and roars at the group. Completely losing it, the guide screams that last time he was here, this thing was just a normal wood monster, not this mutant freak. Panicking, the guy warns that killing an A-rank beast like this takes a massive raid party of elite hunters, not just 2 people. Laughing at the guide's freak out, the blonde sneers, asking why they'd need more people. Gripping her sword like a pro, the woman promises she's more than enough to turn that demonic tree into kindling all by herself. With a violent burst of speed, the sister takes off like a missile straight at the mutant. Sensing danger, the mutant tree shoots dozens of sharp vines like spears at the girl. Nimble as an expert, the blonde chops the razor-sharp branches in mid-air without even slowing down. Using the branches she just cut as stepping stones, the woman jumps right over the beast's colossal body. Spinning her sword like a blender, she lands a hit on the train's trunk, sending dark splinters flying everywhere. Aiming for the weak spot, she drives her attack straight at the red center eye, trying to blind the wooden freak. Landing on the floor with a skid, the woman clicks her tongue, complaining that the creature's armor is ridiculously tough. Sweating buckets, the guide yells that the branches are hard as steel, and they desperately need a fire mage right now. Capitalizing on her slip-up, the monster shoots a massive wave of roots that wrap around the blonde, trapping her by surprise. In milliseconds, the wooden bindings cover the girl almost up to her neck, squeezing her like a giant snake. Thinking it won the fight, the cursed tree lets out a deafening victory roar in the middle of the dark room. Seeing his partner caught, our hero shouts tensely, ready to jump in and chop a monster salad. But inside her wooden trap, the woman flashes a maniacal smile, her eyes sparkling with pure hype. Muttering the fifth form of the dark flame style, the room's temperature spikes to an insane degree. In a burst of dark fire, she melts the roots and emerges wearing the dark flame armor, looking like a demon straight out of hell. Impressed, the Proto takes a step back, shocked that she can use pure fire magic as a shield without burning her own skin. Wrapped in crimson energy and rocking flaming armor, the sister throws her arms out, calling on the first offensive form, ready to burn the Trent to the ground. Channeling dark power into her blade, the girl charges through the air, screaming, "Dark flame sword dance," with psycho-level aggression. Feeling the extreme heat, the cursed tree panics and tries to shoot every sharp root it has to block the attack. Smiling like a demon, the blonde slices through the massive pile of wood like it's shredded paper, scattering red fire everywhere. With a quick leap, she slams her flaming sword directly into the mutant's solid trunk. The hit is so brutal it cracks the treant's thick bark and starts cooking the monster from the inside out. Letting out a battle cry, she pushes the blade deeper, twisting her body to maximize the damage. A cross-shaped explosion of fire rips through the monster's body, completely lighting up the dark room. The impact is so massive it destroys the red eye in the center of the trunk, making the tree scream in agony. Landing casually on the other side of the beast, the woman shrugs, bragging that her sword doesn't stop for any garbage armor. But the guide frantically yells that the fight isn't over and points at the ruined pile of wood. Out of nowhere, a skinny branch pops out of the ground and grabs the girl's ankle in a flash. Before she can chop the vine, dozens of other roots shoot up and completely trap her body again. Making fun of her own mess, the blonde admits plant monsters are annoying because they regen way too fast if you don't burn every single piece. Watching from a distance, the Proto gulps as he sees his sister getting squeezed by a ball of roots that just keeps getting bigger. Showing zero panic, she shouts from inside that she's triggering her style's third form. Seeing things go south, our hero grabs the guide's arm and yells for the guy to run the other way. Freaking out, the merchant doesn't understand what's happening, but follows the kid as he's dragged away while the ground shakes. Inside the wooden trap, the blonde opens her eyes, glowing like hot coals, and unleashes the full flow of her demon core. Shouting, "Dark flame explosive burial," she detonates her own fire armor in an absolutely insane suicide move. A colossal pillar of dark and red flame swallows the Trent whole, vaporizing the wood all the way down to the base. The shockwave from the blast sweeps the room, sending rocks and ash flying, forcing the Proto to block with his sword so he doesn't get roasted. When the smoke clears, the kid looks at the wreckage and asks his sister if she was trying to burn down the entire floor. Walking out of the ash-covered crater without a single scratch, the blonde struts with total arrogance. Fixing her hair like nothing happened, she walks over to the group and asks in a bored voice if they can move on now. Totally shocked and trembling, the guide stammers that it's impossible for one person to cause that level of disaster and walk away fine. Analyzing the situation, our hero mentally confirms that his sister is a literal monster when it comes to raw offense. But the kid notices her weak spot, realizing her fire moves burn a ridiculous amount of energy, and she wouldn't last long in a war of attrition. After the Trent craziness, the team finally hits the famous 20th floor, walking down halls covered in dust and webs. Searching through some old shelves, the kid suddenly dashes forward, eyes wide, seeing exactly what he came for. Quietly celebrating, the Proto pulls the Tome of Eternal Depths from the shelf, hyped that he actually found the artifact. Super relieved, the merchant cheers, remembering that this 20th floor is exactly where he ran into the cursed monster that got his partner. Confirming the theory, the guide explains that monsters don't respawn in this transition area, which is how he made it this far last time without being a pro hunter. Focused on finding the mutant, the trio pushes through the library shelves, keeping their guard up. Creeping through the shadows, they stumble upon the floor boss's plaza, where the mystery monster is already waiting. Checking the beast from a distance, the hero notices something off about its silhouette and braces for impact. Looking at the armored humanoid shape, the Proto gets a chill down his spine and instantly recognizes the threat. He drops the book on a random shelf and draws his sword immediately. The kid's eyes go wide in panic as he realizes just how bad this is. Also drawing her sword, the blonde gets into a fighting stance next to her brother, while the guide cowers behind them. Facing away from the group, the massive undead knight with dark armor and a giant blade spots the intruders. Shaking and tearing up, the merchant points his finger and curses the damned monster that ruined his partner's life. With a deadly glare, the Proto orders the guide to stay back and warns his sister that playtime is over. They need to crush this thing fast. Feeling the beast's insane pressure, the hero yells, telling the blonde to fall back right now. Ignoring her little brother's warning, the girl smirks and says she'll take the front line and turn the creature to dust. In an insane dash, the night monster spins its body with physics, defying speed and attacks before she can. With a colossal swing, the undead fires a wave of dark, cutting energy straight at the girl. Caught completely off guard, the blonde barely has time to cross her sword to block the blast of demonic wind. The impact is so brutal it cracks the floor, tearing open a massive trench right behind her. Sliding for meters, the sister kicks up a dust cloud, complaining that getting pushed back by raw strength was not part of the plan. Dropping to one knee to keep from falling over, the woman mentally admits that a long fight with this thing is gonna be trouble. Not giving them a break, the monster keeps the pressure on, throwing an aerial stab aimed right at her chest. In the blink of an eye, the opponent's giant blade comes down wrapped in dark energy, ready to split the blonde in half. Dodging on pure reflex, she rolls away, feeling the wind pressure slice her cheek. Facing it head-on, the girl counters with a strike coated in dark fire, and both swords clash, throwing sparks. The force of the collision creates a storm of dark and crimson energy, trashing the bookshelves around them. Watching from afar, the Proto gulps, realizing he barely tracked the speed of that first attack. Shocked, the kid wonders how the monster just tanked his sister's explosive hit without taking any damage. Furious that she got blocked, the blonde jumps back and preps her next move, spinning her sword in the air. Summoning red magic symbols under her foot, she shouts the second form of the dark flames and calls up a solid pillar of fire. Yelling, "Dark Flame Vortex!" A tornado of dark fire swallows the undead knight, sucking him into the center of the blast. Seeing the monster trapped in the fire, the guide cheers from his hiding spot, thinking the tide just turned in their favor. But the Proto gets a terrible feeling and yells at the girl not to drop her guard for a second. From the center of the red tornado, the knight's giant blade cuts the flames like smoke and comes crashing down at her. Flashing a confident smile, the blonde figures the beast's slow attack is the perfect opening and rushes in to counter. With her blade wrapped in dense demonic core energy, she aims for a gap in the rival's armor to end the fight. But when her sword connects, her eyes go wide as a bizarre recoil shoots right up her arm. Instead of slicing, her sword just clangs and slides off the monster's body without leaving a single scratch. Instinctively jumping back, she lets out a groan, feeling her wrist pop from the raw impact. Frozen, the hero thinks to himself that it's impossible for the beast's armor to tank the heaviest shadow hit like that. Breathing hard, the girl just stands there looking at her sword, which literally chipped just from hitting the undead. Showing zero emotion and looking bored, the monster pops its helmet open, revealing a toxic, corrupted green light inside. Confused, the blonde notices her left arm is covered in gross green energy and she's losing feeling in it. Out of nowhere, the knight fires a massive blast of toxic green energy straight from its helmet at point-blank range. Jumping fast, our hero grabs his sister by the waist and rolls them out of the lethal danger zone. The green beam grazes past and hits the maze wall, carving out a massive hole and melting the rock with acid that evaporates into the air. Looking at his injured sister, our Proto promises he'll help, but warns her to stay away from the monster's cursed arm. Right then, the beast extends its arm, which stretches out like a whip of corrupted sludge, reeking of cursed energy. The blonde yells that with this toxic arm, she won't be able to charge up enough energy for a finisher. Changing the game plan, the kid asks his sister for a massive favor in the middle of this bloodbath. Watching the undead knight, he notices the beast is charging up an attack of pure energy in its chest. The Proto asks her to pull off that suicide explosion move that almost wiped them both out back in the yard. Without hesitation, the blonde accepts the risk and charges in, cutting the air with crazy speed. In an explosion of power, she spins her sword, wrapping the area in dark flames that force the monster to back off. While his sister distracts the beast, the dark-haired youth focuses all his core energy into his personal sword dance of light and shadow. Combining both attacks, they trap the undead in a circle of absolute destruction. The flash from the hit lights up the entire floor, blinding the guide who's hiding behind a shelf. In a massive display, the dark flames and golden lightning completely wreck the knight's defenses. The blonde lands on her feet next to her brother, while the beast's armor starts cracking all over. Through the smoke, both siblings get ready to delete this trash for good. But the monster lets out a spine-chilling roar, and its armor starts glowing with a creepy violet light. Amazed by its durability, the Proto mutters that this is definitely not a normal mob. Faster than anyone expected, the undead swings a massive circular slash with its dark blade. The blonde jumps back, barely dodging it as the floor gets sliced completely in half. Not letting up, the knight charges again, trying to skewer the girl while her arm is paralyzed. But the Prota catches the attack with his hand wrapped in pure light, saving his sister at the very last millisecond. Yelling for her to dodge, the kid tanks the hit straight on his hybrid energy shield. Instantly, the sister fires up the second dark flame form, creating a massive fire spear. The hit drops the knight to its knees, making its armor crack like glass. Realizing the weak spot is in the chest, the monster emits a green glow from inside its armor. The blonde screams her brother's name, so he doesn't miss the perfect opening she just made. With his core pulsing, the Prota shifts into the holy demonic style, waking up a brand new divine energy. Raising his sword, which now shines like a star, he calls out the twin polar blade. Coming down fast, he jams the sword straight into the monster's chest, shattering the emerald core. The undead stops moving instantly, letting out a final breath of ancient metal. The light punches through the beast's armor, vaporizing everything from the chest down as it turns to dust. With the beast defeated, the Prota drops to his knees, totally exhausted as his energy goes back to normal. Checking out the mess, the kid notes that the beast power level was way higher than they expected. The platinum-haired sister throws her sword on the ground and releases a dark flame vortex to burn away the monster's leftover bits. She turns to her brother, admitting that the effort was enough to clear the debt she owed him. Looking at the dead body, the Prota thinks about how even his sister's strongest attack couldn't scratch that armor before they teamed up. Wondering if running away was their only other option, he checks out what's left of the arena. Silence takes over the floor again as the two siblings stare at each other in the rubble. The blonde points out that having two monsters like them in the same bloodline is a guaranteed recipe for disaster. The Prota hears a weird voice in his head, but ignores it to focus on the woman's injured arm. Standing up slowly, the hero realizes he's surrounded by a super bright white light that just popped up out of nowhere. The whole scenery changes completely and crazy mixed golden energy is floating everywhere. Yelling into the empty space, he asks who's there and where he just ended up after the fight. An intense light appears in the middle of the room, and the Prota realizes that if he dies here, it's game over. The undead knight is gone for good as the system pings a critical class evolution notification. The blonde pops out of the flash, asking what the hell he's doing just standing there like a statue. A screen pops up in the Prota's vision, confirming the hair's evolution and unlocking the divine core system. With shaking hands, he calls on the second form of the divine style, something he's never even seen before. The sword starts radiating a golden power that makes the library's air literally vibrate. Twin sky tier. He feels the ancient energy flowing through his new body's veins. In an explosion of golden light, he fires a beam that splits reality right in front of him. The power is so insane that even time seems to freeze for a second. Smiling, the dark-haired youth realizes this is the true power of the sacred core he's been after. Overflowing with energy, he swears he's going to pay back everyone who tried to kill him. The golden power pushes forward, wiping out the maze's shadows and clearing the path to the next floor. A system prompt chimes in front of him, confirming his evolution request was approved. Looking at the sword, he realizes he just absorbed the consciousness of the power's old owner. The blade gives off such an aura of dominance that even the blonde takes a step back. A golden spirit pops up, floating above him and acting like absolute royalty. With a serious voice, the man introduces himself as Zex Valmouth, the original owner of the Divine Core. The Prota just stands there and asks who this guy is that knows all about his hidden power. Zex explains that the divine and demonic cores are actually two broken halves of the exact same source. The spirit says that back in the Age of Gods, humanity was given the power to fight the invaders from outer space. But after the war, humans just started slaughtering each other over politics. He reveals that the factions, scared of losing control, assassinated the original core holders. The power got split in two, creating the broken demonic and divine cores that exist today. The spirit explains that originally they were just one thing, which is why the Prota managed to fuse them. Taking the chance, the dark-haired youth asks if he could have beaten the invaders if humans hadn't screwed him over. With a look of disgust, Zex swears that with the full core, they would have wiped the invaders off the map without even breaking a sweat. The spirit looks at the kid and claims that with this new combined power, he actually has a shot at fixing the tragic future. But he warns that the Prota has to beat strong enemies to grind the system up to max level. Shining, our hero agrees on the spot, accepting the challenge. While Zex laughs happy and says he's going to teach him something super basic to kick off the training. He tells the kid to show him how he handles the garbage mob, trying to sneak up behind him. In an explosion of golden light, the Prota spins and fires a beam of pure energy that makes the whole landscape shake. The hit connects with a shadow monster trying to jump the group, blowing the beast into 1,000 pieces in a total flex of dominance. With his eyes glowing deep purple, the Prota decides he's finally going to slice this monster in half. Jumping like a bullet, he smashes the golden energy into the undead, creating a shockwave that shatters the floor. Spinning mid-air, our hero triggers the twin sky variation, controlling blades of light around his body. The system flashes in his vision, explaining that the technique uses light to create both cutting attacks and solid shields. In a crazy combo, he fires 6 swords of pure energy that fly around the creature like drones. Watching this, Ozrek the guide is absolutely dumbfounded, wondering how the kid managed to hack off the beast's limb using just the room's lighting. The monster tries to fight back with its dark claws, but the light blades block everything, creating a flawless barrier. Taking advantage of the open guard, the dark-haired youth moves in, sword in hand, for a direct stab to the core. Flashing a winner's smile, he aims his palm at the beast, which is completely boxed in by golden light. The combined attack of the 6 lights punches through the knight's armor like it's tissue paper. Roaring in pain, the undead tries to hold the swords back, but the holy power just eats its dark energy. For the final hit, the hero shoots a massive blast straight through the creature's helmet, vaporizing the rest of the metal. The monster's armor collapses into twisted iron chunks and smoke as the enemy turns to dust. Seeing the fight is over, the Proto puts his sword away, tired but with a victorious gleam in his eye. The blonde walks up behind him, still mind blown by the move that literally vacuumed up all the evil energy in the room. Screaming for him to dodge, the sister notices the monster has one last trick before it dies. A burst of toxic green energy explodes from the knight's remains, shooting straight at them. Without even thinking, our Proto throws up a gold shield that bounces the acid wave away. The toxic energy crashes into the maze walls, melting the rock with a nasty sizzling sound. Moving fast, the blonde cuts the rest of the beam with her own sword, protecting the guide who was hiding behind her. The shockwave from the blast shakes the entire floor, but the hero stands his ground. Crossing his arms, he lets the golden energy fade slowly while the monster finally stops glowing. Eyes wide, the sister points out the kid walked out of that brutal attack without a single scratch. Checking the results, the dark-haired youth puts his blades away, realizing he just cleared the first hurdle of this journey. They stand side by side as the golden glow lights up the dark hallway of the infinite library. The leftover energy in the air gets sucked up by the kid's marks, which start glowing again. Feeling his body react, he notices the hair class is actually evolving his own energy. A system ping tells him his divine core leveled up to 2, and he just unlocked the 5 color eyes ability. Checking the notification, the kid sees that Zex hit a message in the system rules. The system warns him that this is the path to level up and tells him to use his new power smartly. Reading the screen, the Proto gets that turning into a monster in a fight is the only way to unlock new skills. Walking over, the guide asks if the monster is actually dead or if it's going to jump scare them again. Stating the obvious, the dark-haired youth points at the dust pile, promising the bug is totally nuked. The blonde puts her sword away, noticing the heavy air in the library feels lighter and the curse is gone. With tears in his eyes, Ozrek thanks them both and says he needs to run back and save his partner right now. Watching the guide leave, the sister walks up to her brother, studying the way he walks. Not beating around the bush, she asks where exactly he learned to use such a creepy sword style. The kid tries to change the subject, but the blonde puts on a serious face and demands the truth, since she knows every style in the book. She explains there are a lot of branches, but the way he handles the dark core is just way too weird. The girl lists the names of the speed and offense, focused moves he was just spamming. She names the shadow styles and the void despair like the kid has a master's degree in all of it. But she points out that his specific style isn't in any of the textbooks the family teaches. Cornered, the Proto wonders how she's so observant and what kind of lie he can spin to get her to shut up. The blonde stares right into his soul, waiting for an answer that doesn't come from a textbook. Giving a little smile, the youth cuts the conversation off and tells her to just drop it already. The blonde warns that she's going to beat the truth out of him when it's time for them to fight to the death in the Succession War. Walking out of the maze, they see the guide already, coming back, holding the book for the deal with Eve. Back to the fortress, the sun shines on the trio's faces. Suddenly, a carriage crash stops them, and Brother Sees runs up yelling that Eve got kidnapped. The blonde explains that Scar raided the mansion while he was gone and took their sister hostage for intel. It's pretty obvious the redhead plans to torture Eve to force her to spill the beans about No. With his eyes glowing deep purple, the Proto grits his teeth, promising Scar is going to pay a massive price for this. He looks at Sees and the guide, asking if they're ready to throw down with the third hair. The dark-haired youth warns he's not just going to ask for an apology, he's going to return the damage Scar caused twofold. Oozing pure spite, he announces it's time for some entirely one-sided payback. The blonde agrees to join the squad to fix his own mistake of leaving his sister unprotected. The Proto cuts him off, saying he doesn't have time to gather an army, and they're launching the raid right now. Ordering the bodyguard to lock down their mansion, the kid draws his sword, ready for war. Tutor Kyle promises he'll guard the fortress with his life while they handle the problem. With a nod, the dark-haired youth gives the final order, and the squad heads straight for the enemy's turf. In the carriage, the Prota and C's ride toward Scar's place with total murder in their eyes. The wind howls as they ride hard through the main roads of the Daskor territory. The kid notices that C's is actually way more talented as a bodyguard than he thought and isn't going to fold easily. He asks his brother why he's so obsessed with protecting Eve, and the blonde admits it's a really old loyalty thing. The blonde reveals his demon core isn't that strong, so he had to focus entirely on defense techniques. Thinking about his weak spots, the blonde admits the only way to cover his lack of power was just brutal, raw training. He thinks back to the secret martial arts he learned just to protect the people he cares about. Watching his brother, the Prota realizes C's is one of the rare family members who doesn't just want to murder everyone else. The blonde yells that he'll protect Eve no matter what happens on this rescue op. Reaching the rival mansion's gate, they hop off the mounts with their weapons already drawn. The dark-haired youth warns he has absolutely zero mercy for Scar's guards. With a single kick, he smashes the rival's front gate, scaring the crap out of the staff. The Prota's purple energy explodes, lighting up the entrance with a terrifying aura. He marches in, trashing statues and the barricades protecting Scar's yard. Flexing his power, the hero charges the redhead's private security, destroying anything in his path. Instantly, our Prota and the blonde break into the enemy base, staring down a platoon of hitmen. Right then, the bodyguard warns that this is Scar's elite coward squad. Without wasting time, the enemies jump off the walls, proving they actually know what they're doing. Mocking them, the camo-wearing commander calls them both idiots for charging into a frontal assault. Furious, our kid unleashes his purple aura and demands they bring the redhead out right now, because he doesn't have time for trash. Finding the arrogance funny, the masked guy points out the brat hasn't noticed how badly outnumbered they are. Exactly at that second, the Prota's pure death glare makes one of the lackeys blindly rush him. But the counter is lightning fast, and the hero runs the grunt through the chest with a perfect, electricity-coated strike. Right after, he lands a brutal kick that sends another hitman flying. Mad at the disrespect, the commander points his sword, promising zero mercy for anyone challenging the boss of the house. Ignoring the threat, our kid turns into a purple blur, tearing through the enemy lines. Sparks explode everywhere as his sword drops lackey after lackey. In the middle of the yard, it's an absolute bloodbath as the two brothers pulverize the assassins. Soon, the Prota finds himself locked in a heavy sword clash with the commander. Despite the brute force, the army of grunts keeps swarming them, not giving them a second to breathe. Demanding some personal space, Blonde C's chops a lackey in half, proving he can cause some damage too. Setting the stage, the bodyguard activates the third form of the Dark Thunder style, charging blue lightning into his sword. With a deafening boom, the electric flash sweeps the enemies in an insane storm. After the blast, you can see dozens of grunts launched into the air, totally fried. Screams of pain echo through the yard, confirming the attack was absolutely devastating. Full of swagger, the partner challenges the whole army to a fistfight, thumping his chest. With a smirk, our Prota realizes he can totally leave the rear guard to the blonde. That's when the masked commander charges in furious, yelling at the kid not to underestimate the squad by looking away. The hero dodges the dirty slash in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, a massive red magic circle pops up in the air, meaning the rival just triggered a special skill. Stepping on ground soaked in vital fluid, the Prota wonders what kind of weird spell this is. From the shadows, the assassin launches an incredible sneak attack. Sounding like a psycho, the enemy warns that this hidden technique was made specifically to kill Daskor family members. With his eyes narrowed, the kid focuses completely on the blade, aiming to take his head off. The system HUD makes it obvious the coward is using a totally broken level 5 art. To counter, our boy tries to summon the second divine form into his sword. But the blade just shoots out a few purple sparks and completely dies. Seeing it fail, he grits his teeth, feeling that his energy is completely blocked. Without a shield, the hero takes a purple blast to the chest and gets launched backward, sliding across the dirt. Checking his own body, he realizes, totally pissed, that the enemy's attack jammed his demon core. Behind the mask, the commander laughs, claiming no sword is going to save them now. Quickly, the two brothers regroup side by side to figure out a new plan in the chaos. Surrounded by a massive red sea of hitmen, being outnumbered is starting to feel overwhelming. Super stressed, Blonde C's grumbles that this debuff is a huge problem for them. Taking the lead, the bodyguard orders the youngest to push forward while he holds off the entire army by himself. He tells the kid not to worry, and to just focus on beating Scar and saving Eve. Trusting his partner, our Prota gives a nod, agreeing to the risky play. Right away, the kid blasts forward like a missile, leaving the grunts in the dust. Ready to brawl, the blonde turns to face the army of assassins, totally willing to tank the hits if he has to. With a confident smile, he warns that losing his core doesn't change a thing, since he can still blow everything up with pure magic. Smashing the ground with energy, the blonde casts a rock spell, creating a colossal wall. The solid structure bursts from the yard, launching the hitmen into the air like ragdolls. Through the smoke, he yells for the youngest to focus on the side building, because that's definitely where the target is hiding. Desperate, the masked commander orders his men to chase the kid while he tries to bust the shield wall. But sees magic takes no prisoners, and stone spikes skewer anyone who tries to take a step forward. The commander barely dodges the spikes, clicking his tongue in pure frustration. A massive forest of sharp rocks forms, cutting the battlefield completely in half. Away from the mess, our proto runs hard, tearing through the air to reach the building. Back in the yard, the blonde taunts the commander, daring him to fight hand to hand. Inside a fancy room, Scar has Sister Eve tied down to a chair. Keeping her cool, the girl dryly replies he can ask 1,000 times, but she's not talking. Trying to play mind games, the redhead swears he already captured her staff and threatens to kill everyone. Staring at him with pure disgust, the sister fires back, saying that having a piece of trash like him in the family is an absolute disgrace. Suddenly, the sounds of the fight outside make the room's windows rattle, spooking the coward. Realizing there's a problem, the redhead panics, guessing the crazy runt actually had the guts to raid his base. Seeing her brother freak out, the girl mutters that he still doesn't get how screwed he is. Preaching to him, she warns that cheap tricks don't work on the youngest because the kid is pure Dasker pride. Trying to save face, Scar forces a nervous laugh, claiming he's finally going to test the youth's strength. Completely losing it, the redhead draws his sword, calling his sister a disrespectful brat. But before he can touch her, our hero shatters the window in a cinematic flying entry, crashing into the room. Landing on the floor, the boy tells his sister that the cavalry has finally arrived to clean up this mess. Sword in hand and looking deadly serious, the youth stares the rival down. Relieved, the tied-up girl still finds a way to smile and complain that the rescue took too long. Blind with rage, Scar points his blade at the youngest, screaming the kid's name like a total psycho. Keeping his cold, ruthless vibe, our proto points his weapon right back, warning that playtime ends here. The vibe in the room gets super heavy as both brothers size each other up, ready for a bloodbath. Without backing down a single millimeter, their staring contest makes it clear only one of them is walking out of this room. Trying to act tough again, the villain mocks him, asking if the brat seriously thinks he has a chance to win. Flashing his most sarcastic smile, our kid replies that an absolute beatdown is already guaranteed. Filled with rage, Scar charges in screaming, but gets stonewalled by the youngest, who sprays purple energy everywhere. With a violent strike, our proto slams his sword against the redhead's blade, scattering purple sparks. The impact is so heavy that the building's brickwork explodes into pieces, just from the sheer force. As the room, Stakar flies backward, shattering the glass roof, and crashes into the yard below. Not giving him a breather, the kid lands in the yard right after him, sword ready to continue the punishment. With eyes glowing with pure hatred, the hero locks onto his downed target. Instantly, the system reveals the redhead has 5-star stats and is the actual creator of the abyssal style. Walking calmly, the dark-haired youth asks why the coward used assassins against a literal child. Smirking ironically, the villain replies that the answer should be pretty obvious. Blind with rage, Scar yells that the brat annoys him too much and unleashes a terrifying purple aura. With a fast jump, they clash again, creating an energy wave that kicks dust off the ground. Surprised, the proto notices his core's debuff is gone and wonders if he just stepped out of the magic trap's range. Pissed off, the redhead throws it in his face that their dad acknowledged the youngest kid's strength even though he's so weak. Taking him head on, our hero tanks the heavy attack from his brother, who's coming in hot. Screaming for the kid to die, the villain amps up the pressure, covering the area in darkness. The boy quickly parries the strike, forcing his rival to take a step back. Sliding across the floor, the coward creates some space so he doesn't eat a surprise counter. Panting, Scar mentally admits that the brat's sword skills are the real danger here. Holding his giant blade, he declares the youngest is just going to be a stepping stone for his victory in the succession war. Wasting no time, the villain triggers the third form of the abyssal style, kicking up a creepy fog. A bizarre army of giant, armed skeletons rises from the ground, ready for a night shift. Soon, the bone creatures rush the kid in an unstoppable wave. Super calm, the hero analyzes the situation and guesses this is just a cheap magic trick. Putting up his guard, he clashes his sword against the undead blades to test their physical strength. From the heavy impact, the dark-haired youth's eyes widen as he realizes how serious this actually is. Under pressure, he falls back, dragging his shoes on the stone as the army pushes forward. The proto quickly figures out this isn't a normal illusion because the skeletons have actual, physical mass. More bone monsters step out of the yard's shadows, boxing the kid in from all sides. Cornered, he summons his golden energy and forms a divine shield to tank the first wave of attacks. Muttering the second holy form, the energy explodes and purifies the closest creatures. In the blink of an eye, he summons twin sky blades and slices the air with golden slashes. A storm of divine light drops from the sky, cutting the giant skeletons like they're made of glass. The golden energy zigzags across the area, wiping the field clean in milliseconds. Dusting off his clothes, the hero complains that this summon magic is super annoying. Furious, Scar punches the ground hard, cracking the rock out of pure spite. The redhead immediately spawns more and more bone monsters at the kid without pausing. The villain sarcastically asks if the brat really thinks he can solo an entire army. Full of himself, Scar yells at the top of his lungs, daring his brother's physical limits. Proving him wrong, our proto rushes into the middle of the horde and disintegrates everything as a dark, purple blur. Calculating eyes, he doesn't drop the pace for a single split second. Spinning his glowing sword, he destroys another wave of skeletons trying to box him in. Showing no mercy, the kid fires energy blasts in all directions, keeping total control of the arena. Mocking his rival's face, the hero warns that it doesn't matter how much trash he spawns. Slicing another enemy, he keeps up an insane kill streak without breaking a single drop of sweat. Dropping a cool one-liner, he claims trash is always going to be trash, no matter how many there are. With a perfect finisher, the golden light wipes out the last remaining skeletons in the area. On his knees and panting, Scar sees his attack fail and lets out a painful groan. From afar, the proto stands completely still, sword in hand, just waiting for the next move. Refusing to take the L, the villain jams his blade into the ground, dropping a puddle of darkness. A spooky rift opens in the yard, sucking up the area's energy in a really weird way. Startled by the loud noise, our kid gets ready for whatever freak is about to crawl out of that hole. Right away, a colossal bone dragon emerges from the rift, trashing the ground beneath it. Blind with rage, the redhead points his finger and orders the beast to tear the kid apart once and for all. With a terrifying roar, the skeleton dragon spreads its wings and flies at the hero. Flashing a sly smile, the proto notes this is the perfect time to test out a brand new toy. In his vision, the system screen flashes, announcing his new Holy Darkness Eye skill. He quickly triggers the fifth divine form and switches his fighting stance. The kid's eyes glow with an intense, scary color, locking right onto the massive creature. Calling down a golden lightning bolt straight from the sky, he blasts the spell right onto the bone beast's head. The hit causes a massive explosion that drops the dragon to the ground, beaten and useless. With a perfect jump, the hero lands right on top of the tamed monster's skull. With his eyes glowing gold, the proto stares down his brother from up high, looking like an absolute boss. Control lightning runs through the dragon's bones, proving the creature just switched teams. Frozen in shock, Scar watches his own summon act as a mount for the youngest kid. Desperate, the redhead stammers, asking what the hell he just did, and screams for the dragon to attack the kid. Through the system screen, the youth sees that his new vision hacks the opponent's technique and completely steals control. With maximum sass, the hero announces the creature takes orders from him now and tells his rival to stop crying. Pissed off and cursing, the villain fires up the first abyssal form, getting ready for a Hail Mary play. Yelling the move's name, he shoots a sharp energy spear at the flying beast. The spell blows up mid-air, creating a cloud of dust but doing zero actual damage to the shielded monster. Using the distraction, the proto jumps off the dragon and dives straight at the coward. Not backing down, the kid plants his feet on the creature, making it clear he completely owns the beast. Reloading his sword, the brother tries the same dark move again in pure, blind desperation. The dark spear fires again in a red streak, tearing through the tense wind of the yard. The impact causes another useless explosion, proving raw power isn't going to save Scar's skin. With unbelievable speed, the hero cuts through the blast and lands a clean slash that makes the villain cough up blood instantly. Cornered by the kid's push, the redhead sweats cold and mutters that he's out of options. Without hesitating, the coward crushes a weird vial, releasing some freaky purple smoke. Right after, a dark portal opens in the air, shooting lightning in all directions. Out of the shadows, two hitmen step out, holding Sister Eve hostage. Smile on his face, the villain sarcastically asks if the youth came all the way here just to save the girl. Pressing his blade against the girl's throat, the lackey shows the threat is completely real. Furious at the dirty trick, our hero freezes in place while his rival warns that one wrong move means she's dead. Full of himself, Scar promises to let the hostage go only after he completely ruins the youngest. Blackmailed, the proto grits his teeth, super frustrated that he can't make a move. Suddenly, a violent red explosion rips through the ground exactly where the hitmen were standing. Startled by the blast, the coward goes wide-eyed, not understanding what kind of crazy just happened. In the middle of the dust, the oldest brother Damien appears, wearing giant armor and shielding the girl. Completely in shock, the raid head stammers the armored guy's name, thinking he just saw a ghost. Serious as a brick wall, the giant announces Eve declared neutrality in the war, meaning she's untouchable. Losing his mind, the villain yells, asking what's stopping him from breaking house rules. Standing firm, the older brother states he'll execute anyone who goes against the family rules. With his plan ruined, the raid head clicks his tongue in pure spite. But, with an intense look, our hero steps in and tells the giant to stay out of it. With a heavy voice, the youth warns that this fight is about the demon core, and it's totally personal. Dead set on revenge, the kid makes it clear nobody is stealing his prey. Flashing a tiny smile, Damien agrees that stepping in would also be a serious rule break. So the big guy steps back and tells the two brothers to go all out and settle this fight right now. Turning to face his target, the Proto calls the coward back to the brawl. To disrespect him completely, he asks if the trash can even fight a clean match without needing hostages. Hurt by the comment, the villain complains that everyone in the family tree always looked down on him. Pulling out all his dark power, Scar activates the 7th form of his abyssal style. In an explosion of purple energy, he summons an insane suit of shadow armor. With glowing red eyes, the redhead swears he's going to chop the youngest into tiny pieces this time. Not backing up an inch, our kid fixes his stance and realizes the enemy's move is meant to mess with his head. Thinking fast, he figures the best defense is to just go full offense and not leave any openings. In a violent charge, they clash swords, creating a massive boom in the middle of the yard. Sparks they trade lightning-fast blows. To finish it, the hero fires off the double sky tier technique wrapped in golden light. But the rival's shadow armor absorbs the hit and completely blocks the attack. You totally shocked, our kid can't figure out how the guy tanked a max level attack like that. Rival's guard open, the villain triggers the 4th dark form. In a fraction of a second, he throws an invisible slash that cuts the air with massive crimson energy. Caught off guard, the Proto feels the blade graze him with full force. On pure reflex, he crosses his sword over his chest and blocks most of the damage. Feeling his arm throb, the youth realizes a core, boosted attack is way too heavy to block head-on. Showing no mercy, the redhead pushes forward, cutting the air with pure hatred. Full of mockery, the coward yells, asking where the brat thinks he's going to run. Right after, a massive explosion of gold lightning and shadows swallows the fighters. Pushed back by the raw power, our hero lets out a muffled groan of pain. On the other side, the villain clicks his tongue, annoyed that his target dodged a fatal wound. Leaning on his sword, the hero takes a deep breath to recover after the hit. They clash again, throwing a flash of power across the ruined arena. With a quick jump, they create some distance to reset the fight. Paying close attention to the opponent, the Proto admits the redhead's technique is perfect on both offense and defense. Straight up, the kid asks why someone so strong chooses to play dirty instead of fighting fair. Full of bitterness, Scar replies that their dad always called his talent for illusions useless trash. Driven by real resentment, the coward explains he built the entire abyssal style just to prove he was worthy. But not even these insane techniques made the old monster look his way. With a totally corrupted soul, the villain declares his only option left is to win at any cost. Flashing a psycho smile, he swears he'll force the patriarch to eat his words when the tournament ends. Exploding with intense red energy, he warns he doesn't care about getting his hands dirty with pure evil. Ending the chat, the redhead tells the youngest he's just going to be fertilizer for his success. Channeling all his bottled-up rage, he preps the 9th restricted form. In an insane display of power, the villain summons the Red Dragon of Ruin. The scarlet energy beast rips through the sky, letting out a bone-chilling roar. Like a meteor, the dense dragon dives straight down to eat our hero. The beast crashing into the ground kicks up a massive cloud of dust and rocks. Suddenly, a golden flash pierces the smoke, pushing the destructive attack back. With his feet planted, the Proto holds off the insane pressure, radiating pure divine light. Above him, the energy freak keeps pushing the barrier, trying to crush its target. Pushed to his limit, the kid forces his core into overdrive, shooting blue and purple lightning everywhere. Laughing loud, Scar says the kid is out of gas and will die if he relies just on his blade. Calmly, our hero pulls a weird vial from his jacket. Eyes wide, the redhead recognizes the item instantly and loses his swagger. Ironically, the Proto explains he turned the maid's poison into a perfectly stable serum. Without blinking, the kid chugs the dangerous liquid right down his throat. Terrified, the villain yells, asking if his brother totally lost his mind, since that stuff makes cores explode. In the middle of a golden lightning storm, the youth notes his body is already immune to the poison. Glowing like the sun, our Proto declares the toxin is now acting as a supercharged stim for his core. Instantly, the system G pops up, showing his holy power hit level 20, unlocking a totally new blast of light and dark. With a serious tone, the kid warns he has a strong reason not to quit, because the disaster from his past can absolutely not happen again. Firing up the 2nd divine form, a massive pillar of light drops from the sky, tearing the whole scene apart. Right after announcing the light dark blast, our hero swings his sword with everything he's got. Desperate, the redhead screams as the dense dragon crashes right into the crushing golden energy. Zero chance of winning, the dark beast starts breaking apart under the insane pressure of the divine strike. In a violent collision, both spells explode, creating a tornado of ruin in the yard. Instantly, a flash blinds everyone, clearing the shadows from the battlefield. The force of the impact sends a massive shockwave across the whole arena, sparing nothing. As the dust settles, you can see the damage and the rocks thrown everywhere, tossed back like a ragdoll. The villain tries to find his footing on the completely destroyed ground. Right in the middle of the crash, the energy shoots up like a mushroom cloud, ending the fight for good. When the air finally clears, the scene shows the coward defeated, while our kid is still standing without a scratch. From a distance, Sister Eve and the giant Damien are speechless at the shocking finish. Calm footsteps echo over the broken rocks as the youngest walks up to his rival's body. Pointing his giant sword at the trash's face, the hero says he doesn't really care about killing him here. Straight up, the Proto demands the beaten brother surrender immediately. Scar accepts the loss and agrees to hand over his own demon core as the prize. But the hero's eyes catch a weird movement at the very last millisecond. In a dirty, cowardly move, a hidden short blade flies straight at the kid's throat. With a crazy maniacal smile, the redhead bets his last card on this betrayal. Super agile, our kid just turns his head, letting the blade graze by without doing any damage. Shocked by the dirty trick, the sister and the giant go wide-eyed at the extreme cowardice. Filled with hate, the villain yells he'll never bow down to a piece of trash like his little brother. Swearing he won't let the brat stay on top, he charges in for one last suicide attack, but takes a clean counter hit instead. Vital fluid sprays on the cold rock as the coward drops to his knees, groaning in pain. Desperate, the purple-haired girl screams her brother's name, thinking the worst just happened. The armored guy takes a step forward with a serious face, ready to stop the bloodbath. Refusing to lose, the redhead raises his short blade and goes for another suicide run, screaming that the show ends here. In a dry, fatal response, the hero's glowing sword runs right through the traitor's chest, spraying vital fluid into the air. Completely drained, the villain falls flat on his back on the cracked ground and finally passes out for good, ending the chaos. Covered in cuts, Scar spits up red liquid, paying the price for his own arrogance. The entire yard goes dead silent after the brawl finally wraps up. Holding his injured shoulder, our youth reflects that this family's blind arrogance always matters more than their lives. Standing over his brother's body, he takes a deep breath to let the battle adrenaline fade. The sister walks over to the fighting zone, asking how the kid survived all that craziness. Bluntly, the giant points out the cut was fatal and no doctor is getting here in time, so he's going to handle it himself. Wasting zero time, the girl summons an intense green energy and kneels next to the dying guy. Using the first shadow flower form, she funnels all her healing magic into the redhead's open wound. Through the misty lantern spell, green light wraps around the coward's body, stopping his spirit from fading. By some miracle, the bleeding stops, and the guy's skin gets some color back. Impressed by the spell, the hero watches the scene, slowly putting his sword away. Flashing a tired smile, the young woman notes she might suck at fighting, but she's an expert at extracting demon cores. In a good mood, the youth thanks her for saving the trash's life, but the girl changes the subject. Moving fast, she points out that the winner's prize now officially belongs to the youngest. A vibrant red energy sphere floats right above the defeated villain's chest. Focused on the glowing orb, the hero mutters the name of that insane power. Step by step, he walks up to the prize in the middle of the ruined arena while his sister just watches. With a steady hand, the kid grabs the red energy, feeling the raw power pulsing between his fingers. Instantly, the dark heat enters his body, shooting purple and gold lightning everywhere. At that exact second, the system hitch pops up, confirming the absorption was a success. According to the magic stats, his demon core just leveled up from 2 to 5 stars. An insane power jump. Mind that the Proto realizes this instant level up is worth decades of brutal training. Snapping back to reality, the hero looks around and notices the main mess has calmed down. Suddenly, the big blonde guy runs into the yard, desperately looking for the sibling duo. Frozen in shock, the bodyguard admits he never expected to see the runt totally crush the arrogant redhead. Super worried, the blonde checks on the girl, but she explains the giant stepped in right on time. The blonde gives the big guy a quiet nod of thanks, while the other just says he was following house rules. Breaking the silence, a formally dressed servant walks through the broken gate, grabbing everyone's attention. With sharp eyes, the hero and the giant stare at the messenger, realizing their break is already over. Even the rescue duo turns nervously to hear what the dressed-up guy has to say. With a serious voice, the armored guy praises the fight and admits he's super curious about the kid's weird hidden power. Turning his back, the giant says the kid needs to talk directly to the old man now and clears the way for the servant. With a polite bow, the servant announces that the Grand Patriarch wants to see the boy right now. The scene cuts straight to the terrifying, solid fortress of the Dasker family's supreme commander. Inside the fancy office, the old monster mentions the rumors about the kid's win and the stolen energy. Resting his chin on his hands, the boss gives a killer glare, trying to figure out if the story is true or cap. Without blinking, standing tall, our proto replies he won the fight and took the prize because he earned it. The old man asks what the rival's actual level was, and the kid admits his brother easily outclassed him in almost every stat. Giving a hard stare, the monster asks how the youngest managed to crush someone way more experienced and stronger. Silence fills the room for a few seconds while the hero plans the perfect answer. Putting a hand on his chest, the youth declares that his uncontrollable hunger for power made the difference, since losing was never an option. Flashing an evil grin, the Supreme Commander praises the hero's bold and twisted answer. The Patriarch explains the redhead crossed a line he shouldn't have, so the youngest deserves a reward for cleaning house. Flexing his authority, the old man tells the kid to name his prize, and the proto instantly asks for a trip to a specific place. Frowning, the Patriarch thinks it's weird and asks why he isn't being greedy, since a real winner would ask for mountains of gold or legendary weapons. With a serious tone, our hero warns that the reward he wants is way better than any material stuff. Intrigued, the old monster realizes this is all about getting raw power and asks where they're heading. Speeding through rocky mountains, a carriage drives fast, taking our hero to his next target. On the way, the kid confirms to the maids that this trip is his official reward, but warns them they aren't here on vacation. He tells the girls to chill and leave any problems they run into up to him. They agree right away, trusting their lives to the boss. Suddenly, one of the girls gasps, looking out the wooden window. Amazed, both of them point at the horizon, saying they finally made it to the spot. Checking out the view, our proto mutters that they've reached the legendary city built by the human Dragon Alliance. Massive and impressive, the city of Draconia sits right in the middle of the mountains like a real fortress. Soon as the carriage stops, our hero asks who the reptile-faced guards blocking the road are. Standing tall, the scaly fighters introduce themselves as the territory's official envoys. Instantly, the guards take the lead to safely escort the group to the gates. But the kid's sharp eyes spot something sketchy moving in the bushes. Cold as ice, he doesn't react, just waiting for the threat to show itself. Chatting with the reptile commander, the proto mentions that having an escort really makes the trip easier. Without warning, a massive creature drops from the trees, roaring that it found the Dasker target. Super heavy, the beast lands, kicking up dust and cracking the dirt road. Right behind the boss, a whole pack of red, horned ogres steps out of the shadows, looking for a fight. Drawing his sword, the reptile guard identifies the rival clan and tells the young master to step back. With his blade already out, the hero listens as the commander explains that these beasts are fighting for turf control in the area. Basically, the Red Clan only cares about violence and causing trouble, while Draconia's people are just trying to keep the peace. Getting the picture, the kid realizes the monsters showed up specifically to ruin the family alliance. To keep them safe, he turns his head and orders the maids to lock themselves in the carriage right now. Stomping heavily, the monster boss laughs when he sees the scaly escort is already taking a beating. Full of swagger, the big guy warns he doesn't waste time on weaklings and tells the kid to run home while he's still breathing. The cheap trash talk, our proto just gives a totally ironic smile. Flaring up his hybrid lightning, he shoots the threat right back, telling the bug to leave if it doesn't want to get deleted. Hurt by the insult, the ogre cracks its knuckles, calling his rival an arrogant brat. Exploding with violent red energy, the monster swears it's going to crush our hero's bones into dust. Standing completely still in the middle of his power storm, the kid fixes his stance, waiting for the hit. In a crazy clash, the hero raises his energy blade to block the head-on attack. Its giant fist, the beast throws a completely merciless punch at its target. The heavy hit shatters the ground, kicking up a thick cloud of rock and dirt everywhere. The giant crater left behind proves just how insane the red monster's brute strength is. Spinning in the air like an acrobat, the hero dodges the devastating punch by a hair. Totally annoyed that it punched air, the ogre lets out a rage roar that shakes the ground. Ripping a whole chunk of rock out of the floor, the beast throws the boulder right at our kid. Without missing a beat, the youth fires the first divine form, shooting a beam of light and darkness. In a flash, the beam cuts through the air and vaporizes the flying rock into a million pieces. Using the dust as a smokescreen, the monster charges in with a clenched fist, locked onto its prey. Throwing a super fast right hook, the creature tries to wipe the kid off the map for good. The attack is so strong the shockwave shakes the trees all around them. Blocking the hit, the proto mocks the monster's power, calling its moves sloppy. Explaining the obvious, the hero says relying just on aggression gets you nowhere, and pushes the beast back to make some room. Boiling with rage, the big guy calls the kid an idiot for agreeing to a close quarters fight. Jumping high, the beast wins up a heavy aerial smash to crush its opponent into the dirt. But our Proto is faster and throws a deep, upward slash right into the monster's chest. Instantly, a blast of holy light follows the blade, tearing through the big guy's thick skin. Spitting dark blood, the ambush leader faceplants into the mud, totally neutralized. Cold as ice, the kid looks over his shoulder and dares the rest of the pack to step up. Up on the hill, the red grunts freeze in panic seeing their boss get humiliated like that. Running on pure instinct and rage, the whole pack roars together and charges down the hill to get payback. Looking like an avalanche of muscle and horns, they jump straight at our fighter. Still smiling, the kid aims the second divine form, charging energy at the tip of his sword. In one killer shot, a massive golden beam wipes out the entire squad, turning the creatures to ash mid-air. Completely toasted, the beast's bodies fall off the hill and crash hard into the dry dirt. Shocked, the Draconia guards admit the hare's raw power is even crazier than the rumors said. The maids come out of hiding to praise the fight, while the kid gives them a light warning for not listening to orders. Full of excuses, the servant says it's a good maid's job to watch her master win. Changing the subject, the hero looks up at the sky and tells the last guy hiding in the clouds to come down. A giant winged creature follows the order and dives through the air. Flapping its heavy wings, the winged being lands super elegantly in the middle of the dirt road. Walking with heavy steps, an elite fighter walks up, radiating pure military boss energy from head to toe. With a stern voice, the knight says he watched every single move of the kid's fighting style up close. Putting a hand on his chest, the big scaly guy formally introduces himself as the commander of the territory's defense forces. Sharp as ever, our Proto asks why he didn't help in the fight, and gets a snarky reply that a king doesn't need to protect weaklings. Happy with the attitude, the kid smirks and asks if he just passed a surprise endurance test. Keeping his scary vibe, the commander confirms he passed, and takes charge of escorting everyone to Lord Alcardo's. After all the chaos, the carriage finally passes the main gates and enters the busy streets of the capital. Amazed, the maids watch out the window as humans and lizardmen casually do business in the same buildings. Up ahead, a group of kids from different races run around playing sword fight in a crazy peaceful scene. Checking out the view, the hero suggests the girls take the rest of the day off to explore the city. Up in the bright blue sky, flying dragons escort the carriage all the way to the highest peak. Leaving the sunlight behind, the squad walks into dark stone hallways carved right into the mountain, heading for the main fortress. Standing in front of a colossal gate marked with a dragon emblem, the group just waits in the dark for what's next. Holding up a glowing gadget, the scaly commander loudly and formally announces he brought young Master Noah. Suddenly, the stone emblem glows with a weird magic light, and a deep voice tells them to come in. With a heavy groan, the giant doors open on their own, showing the absolute pitch black room inside. Immediately, a storm of raw energy blasts out of the room, hitting the whole squad hard. Standing firm, the Proto feels the crushing pressure and mentally notes this power is equal to or even stronger than his monster dad's. Unable to handle it, the elite lizard guards drop to their knees, totally crushed by the room's heavy aura. Terrified, the maids hide behind the hero, who stands tall like an absolute brick wall. Inside the scary darkness of the castle, only two glowing blue eyes stare intensely at the guests. Impressed by the overwhelming vibe, the youth looks upright as the creepy voice welcomes him. Finally, a majestic, massive white dragon steps out and calls the kid his young partner. Looking like royalty on the throne, the huge white dragon waits for the guests in the dark hall. Outside, the maids and lizard guards wait around looking super stressed. Walking in casually, Noah introduces himself as Victor Dasker's son and says he's here following orders. Keeping his cool, the kid thanks them for the warm welcome, surprised they sent a big shot to fetch him. With a sharp look, the mythical beast watches the boy and admits it senses a familiar power coming from him. Flashing a confident smile, the Proto thinks the ancient Dragon King's radar never misses. Ready to test his limits, he clenches his fist and starts letting his demonic energy loose. In a power explosion, the hero gets swallowed by a crazy purple aura that crackles across the entire hall. Staring down the winged monster, the kid flexes his strength without an ounce of fear. Surprised by the flash, the scaly boss's giant eye goes wide, amazed to see that light again. Skipping the small talk, the beast tells Commander Adalbart to brief the kid on the mission details. With the bosses okay, the lizard warrior steps up to explain what the kingdom needs him to do. He says the dragon race is fighting a bloody, endless war against the violent Oni tribe. Pointing at a war map, the captain sadly admits the balance of power just tipped the wrong way. The lizard explains the enemies just hired a genius strategist, guaranteeing the dragons are gonna lose. Straight to the point, the kid asks if his job is just to carry the game, but the captain says no. Knocking over the enemy pieces on the board, the lizard warrior shows what the squad actually wants. With a heavy voice, Adalbart demands the Prota put a permanent end to this endless war. The lizard commander explains why they're in a rush, saying he's worried about his supreme master's future. It's obvious the imposing Lord Arcados' days are numbered, and he's nearing the end of the line. Sizing up the situation, our hero silently realizes the old dragon barely has any time left. Then the kid remembers Arcados' core, a brutal power source that spawns when the beast dies. In his past life, that power fell into the hands of a sadistic criminal who caused an absolute massacre. With a determined smile, the Dasker hare thumps his chest and accepts the job without a second thought. Relieved, the Dragon King says thanks and promises to give the kid the remains of his own body as payment. By the table, the captain guarantees full backup for the mission and decides to share a dangerous rumor. The lizard commander reveals the rival tribe managed to get their hands on the 8 treasure orbs. Hearing the artifact's name, the kid goes quiet, processing just how huge this problem is. Internally, he groans, knowing those magic items buff entire armies and are going to be a massive headache. Sighing, the hero says he'll look in the drama alone, thinking about squeezing info out of Sister Eve. Walking the streets, the Prota figures the beef with the Oni could turn into a total race war. Looking at the busy city, he admits fixing this whole war solo is going to be really tough. Flashing a nostalgic smile, the kid decides to recruit an old friend to help with this crazy mission. The hero walks confidently to the central plaza, where a giant dragon statue decorates the spot. Near the monument, he spots the girl playing an instrument and celebrates finding her so fast. In his past life, this woman was known as the Saint, an OP mage when it came to healing and shields. Unfortunately, the tragic memory of her dying during the apocalypse still haunts the guy's mind. Putting the past aside, he walks up to the girl, hyped about this random reunion. Feeling him there, the girl turns her head and shoots a cold, piercing glare right at the kid. Thrown off by the stare, the Prota puts his hands up, asking her to stop looking at him like that. Holding her lute, the brunette acts tough and says her next show isn't starting anytime soon. Confused by the answer, the hero stammers while the girl assumes he's just there for the jig. Not caring about the music talk, the kid ignores the mix-up and just asks for her name. Super elegantly, she slides her fingers over the strings, playing a soft tune. Full of charm, the girl introduces herself as Liliana, the official bard of the area. Shocked, the hero can't believe the overpowered saint is just a street bard now. Checking the system, he notices her strength dropped, but her holy stats are still totally broken. With a straight face, the kid calls the girl by her name and says they need to talk right now. Cutting to the chase, the Prota explains the whole critical situation about the war against the Oni. Crossing her arms like she couldn't care less, Liliana gets the drama but turns down the request for help. Annoyed by the instant rejection, our kid asks why she's being so difficult. With her eyes shining, the bard reveals she can smell the unholy energy reeking off him. The kid gets swallowed by his family's purple aura, spooked by how sharp the girl's senses are. To prove he's cool, he summons holy lightning in his hand and asks if that's enough of a guarantee. Surprised, Liliana looks at the golden flash and realizes his prana is a really weird mix of powers. Caving a little, the bard agrees to team up, but demands he fulfill one crazy condition. With a dirty smirk, the woman tells the kid to find her someone good in bed, so she can spend the night. Our hero's eyes go wide and he starts sweating cold, totally glitching out over the wild request. The guy's brain pictures the absurd scene of the bard having a blast with some ripped mythhead. She says the guy needs to be a muscular gentleman and bans anyone with dark magic. Facepalming, the kid sighs, remembering that the girl being boy, crazy was always a chronic issue. Giving a dirty laugh, he agrees to the deal and promises he knows the perfect guy for the job. Happy with the deal, Liliana smiles and dumps the responsibility for this crazy date on the hero. Sealing the contract, the Prota shakes the bard's hand and formally introduces himself as the Dasker hare. Then the scene cuts to a rustic village built at the bottom of a creepy, foggy mountain. Hiking up the stone path, the girl complains about the walk while the hero says they need allies. The dark-haired youth explains an old friend told him about this place and that magic artifacts are hidden here. With his eyes on the prize, the hero doesn't let his new partner's complaining get to him. Finally, the duo arrives at the entrance of a spooky cave guarded by ancient stone pillars. In the dark, a mystery warrior is chilling, meditating while wrapped in intense yellow energy. Sensing the intruders, the man opens one eye, shooting a scary golden glare. Instantly, a giant, glowing magic circle pops up on the floor right under our hero's feet. Caught off guard, the Prota is surrounded by his own purple aura, trying to fight the spell's insane pressure. Without warning, an energy blade slices the air, forcing the kid to block on pure instinct. In a colossal explosion of power, a giant purple slash rips through the area and crashes down on the intruders. As the brutal impact settles, the dust clears to show the duo standing at the cave entrance. Sizing up the situation, Liliana figures the attack was just a flex to scare them. Calmly, the kid asks if his partner got spooked, but she instantly denies it. So the two of them push deeper into the dark hallways, keeping a super close eye on their surroundings. Leading the way, the Proto holds his sword tight, ready for anything. Suddenly, a wind blade cuts through the dark straight at them. Out of the shadows, a bunch of creepy, dinosaur-looking crawlers surround the duo. Gripping her holy book, the mage drops to the back and plays the support role. Wasting zero time, one of the beasts lunges hard to attack the kid. Channeling demonic energy into his blade, the hero gets ready to scrub the area. A massive electric slash tears through the scene, swallowing the enemies in a blink. With pinpoint accuracy, the purple tech shreds the monsters before they even hit the floor. Happy with the damage, the guy promises he can solo these bugs no problem. Impressed by the kid's strength, the bard hypes up his power. But out of nowhere, a huge tail sweeps the floor right behind the hero. Caught totally off guard by the sneak attack, the Proto yells his partner's name, worried. A scaly monster opens its mouth full of teeth, aiming all its rage right at the bard. Violently, the creature charges, tearing up the ground to try and eat the girl. Liliana's quick, backflipping gracefully to dodge the rush. The beast faceplants into the rocks, kicking up dust without hitting its target. Landing safe, she tells him she knows how to look after herself just fine. Curious about the bug, the kid mentions he's never seen monsters like this before. The mage explains that the built-up energy in the cave forces them to mutate out of control. The hero instantly gets why the suppressor artifacts were stashed in this hole. Backing his theory, the girl confirms that's exactly what they came to grab. He also asks if the Oni tribe is the real big bad here, but the mage tells him not to jump to conclusions. The two keep heading down through the creepy tunnels packed with crystallized energy. Pointing down a hall, Liliana announces they've hit the deepest zone. Right then, the bard's eyes quickly lock onto a glow coming from the back. She points into the dark, asking if they found the loot. Sensing danger, the Proto tells the girl to stop before she touches the stuck sword. Walking carefully, he takes the lead to check out the mystery artifact. Suddenly, the kid feels something heavy moving under the floor. Without a second thought, he warns the mage about the ambush. Quick jump, the hero grabs his partner, barely dodging the giant fangs. A colossal monster with purple scales bursts out of the rocks, roaring insanely loud. Scanning the room, the guy notices the beast blocked their only way out. Not giving them a break, the predator shoots a freakish fire blast from its mouth. Seeing the size of the heat wave, the youth realizes they have nowhere to run. Thinking fast, the saint opens her magic book, unleashing her holy aura. Chanting a divine spell, she calls on the world's rules to shield the duo. A magic barrier of golden rings pops up just in time to block the flames. The fire swallows the whole room, making the cave boiling hot. The blast sweeps the floor, melting everything in its path. Holding strong, the mage's hex shield blocks the fatal attack perfectly. By the block, the kid praises Liliana's insane reflexes. Using the monster's distraction, he gets ready to hit back. Furious, the hero charges like a lightning bolt straight at the giant creature. Loading his sword with demonic energy, he creates a storm of purple lightning. With a clean cut, the Proto chops off a piece of the beast's leg, making blood spray. Feeling the hit, the predator lets out a painful, angry roar. Furious, the beast counters, trying to crush the kid with its teeth. But the swordsman parries the strike mid-air, jumping away from danger. Watching the tense fight, the mage realizes the cave won't survive the pressure. Dumping her light into the ground, she triggers a new spell formation. Holy chains erupt from the floor, locking the giant monster in a pillar of light. Scared of a cave-in, she begs her partner to finish the fight fast. Agreeing with her, he charges his energy for a focused AoE attack. Dropping off the radar, the youth turns into a blur, circling the creature at insane speed. Letting out all his power, he readies the first form of his divine combat style. Light and dark, the hero's sword glows with devastating brightness. With a violent push, he launches up, slicing the boss's body from the bottom up. Putting everything into the final hit, the kid lets out a battle cry. The blade's impact punches through the enemy's guard, creating a crazy shockwave. A two-tone energy pillar swallows the beast, destroying everything around it. Completely wrecked, the creature drops to the floor and starts turning to smoke. After clearing the room, the guy checks if the bard is okay and says they need to leave fast. With the path clear, the two walk up to the center of the magic circle on the floor. Without hesitating, the kid grabs the handle of the ancient relic tight. Curious, Liliana asks if the sword is the tool that drains the dragon's power. Stashing the prize, he confirms it and tells her they gotta get out of there. The scene cuts to the massive capital, full of dragons flying through the sky. Back in town, the hero hands a sealed envelope to his partner. He explains it's a letter of intro for Commander Adelbart. Hyped about the reward, the mage grabs the paper and thanks him a ton for the help. Saying he's heading out, the hero says goodbye to the mage, who waves happily, waving the recommendation letter. Walking down the street, the kid stops in front of a really impressive, busy building. He notices the rustic vibe feels a lot like a tavern hall. Soon, a nice waitress walks up and tells him someone is waiting for him. Surprised by the news, the guy is curious to see who the surprise guest is. At a table in the back, a blonde guy raises his hand to wave at the hero, who recognizes his friend instantly and calls out, "Seize." Sitting across from his guildmate, the prota gets right to it and asks why he's there. Keeping it brief, the blonde knight slides a document across the table and tells his friend to read the details. In the text, Sister Eve says she looked into the 8 treasure orbs the second she got his message. While his buddy casually eats a snack, the kid reads that one of these dangerous items was stolen from a neighboring country. The report says the guy responsible is a wanted criminal named Fungus, and he ran straight to the Draconia region. Worried about the mess, Eve warns that the crook is definitely going to use the artifact in this war, and tells him to be careful. The letter explains the power locked inside this cursed orb is strong enough to wipe a whole city off the map. This crazy destructive magic is known by the scary name, Starfall. Realizing how bad the warning is, the hero quietly repeats the spell's name, trying to come up with a plan. The kid quickly figures out this is the exact same magic that wiped out the Dragon Kingdom in his past life. At the bottom of the note, his sister says she's lending him C's for the mission and demands her brother comes home alive. Getting the picture, the hero confirms the blonde is going to help with the fight, and the knight agrees, pumped to train with the dragons. Flashing a confident smile, the prota mentions the deal works out perfectly for everyone. But the peace doesn't last long, because Liliana busts into the tavern screaming the kid's name along with Adelbart's. Stomping over, the mage points her finger right in the hero's face, complaining that this wasn't what they agreed on. Furious, the girl yells that the dragon captain is married with kids, saying she can't hook up with a guy like that. The freak out grabs everyone's attention in the bar, making things super awkward. Keeping his cool, the kid tries to explain he only introduced her formally to the cavalry commander. The giant lizard warrior apologizes for the mess, while the hero mentally kicks himself for not knowing the guy was taken. Owning the mistake, the guy puts his hands up in surrender and promises to find someone else for the bet. Suddenly, the woman's eyes turn into literal hearts and she sighs, completely in love, announcing she already found the perfect match. Totally out of the loop, the blonde knight grunts, having no idea what's going on. Wasting no time, the mage steps up and grabs the warrior's arm hard. Glued to the guy who turns bright red from panic, the bard openly drools over the new target's good looks and ripped muscles. Freaked out by how bold she is, the blonde rips his arm away and steps back, asking what the hell is wrong with this woman. Totally chill, the hero explains she's a new ally and that he promised to set her up with a guy. Ignoring the drama, Liliana goes on the offensive again and locks her hands onto the knights. Looking thirsty as hell, the girl begs him to spend at least one night of passion with her. Dying of embarrassment, the warrior pushes the bard's face away and tells her to stop talking about weird stuff in public. Laughing at his friend's panic, the prota flashes a dirty smirk and tells the mage she can do whatever she wants with the guy. The kid says his debt is paid, making the woman super hyped and leaving the poor blonde in absolute shock. Trying to break free, the knight struggles and tells the crazy lady to get off him right now. Getting pushed, the mage doesn't even care and shamelessly tells him they're going to have a long night. While the blonde screams that he never agreed to any of this, the hero quietly sneaks away from the table. Without a second thought, the kid fires up his demonic aura and jumps out the window, ditching the duo in the tavern. Surprised by the sudden escape, the woman looks back, trying to process what just happened. Outside, the prota yells that he's running to give the new intel straight to the Dragon King. Standing on the roof, the kid plans to move fast and get ahead of the job while his buddy distracts the thirsty partner. Through the tavern window, the knight watches the whole thing, looking worried, and tells the hero not to push himself too hard. Thinking on the way, the kid remembers the Oni King has monster-level strength that easily rivals his dad's. Then he takes off running across the roofs, leaving the poor blonde behind begging him to come back. But the warrior's break is short because the bard's hands are already grabbing his cape tight. Cutting the scene, the prota shows up carrying the partner bridal style, saying they don't have time to chase the runaway right now. After all, the duo finally made it to the edge of the demon race's creepy fortress, and the mission has to keep moving. Putting the girl down, he looks at the enemy camp and asks if they can actually raid this place alone. Focused on the job, the youth makes it clear they aren't here to start a brutal war, just to smash those cursed orbs. Still unsure about the crazy plan, the mage hesitates, not knowing if this will actually work in reality. Staring at the cliff packed with armed ogres on patrol, she asks how the hell they're getting past all that security. Picking the woman back up, the hero argues that the tribe's monsters are huge, but super slow. Right then, the purple demonic energy starts crackling hard around the swordsman's legs. Like a rocket, he launches off the cliff, promising they'll cross the whole base using pure speed. A streak of mixed light cuts across the main bridge, while the giant guards just stand there without even blinking. In a fraction of a second, the duo weaves around the camp's huts, giving the guards zero time to react. Caught off guard by the sudden wind, one of the big guys turns his head, noticing a flash fly by. Trying to focus, the guard is confused as the glowing streak fades into the distance. Before he can finish his sentence, the ogre's hand goes limp, and his heavy wooden club drops to the ground. A second later, the massive monster's head literally slides off his neck, shooting a fountain of blood into the air. Seeing his buddy randomly get decapitated, another demon freaks out and screams that they're under attack. Landing safely with his partner, the mage warns him about the alarm, but the kid coldly promises it's already handled. Immediately, the woman casts a spell, making red rings that act as a soundproof shield. Impressed by the handy magic trick, the swordsman praises his ally's crazy reflexes. Behind them, dozens of horned guards drop dead, chopped up by the invisible slashes the hero left on the way. Giving a charming wink, the bard asks if he has any clue where these relics are stashed. With a sharp look, the prota guesses the items must be deep inside the city, right with the tribe's boss. In his mind, he remembers the criminal fungus was a massive coward who always kissed the strongest guy's boots. Putting it together, the kid is absolutely sure that if that trash is involved, the orbs are in the king's room. Ready to finish the job, the two sneak quietly down the dark halls of the enemy fortress. The duo finally stops in front of a giant door decorated with skulls, thinking it's weird there are no guards around. Pushing the colossal doors, the hero opens the way to see what's waiting for them in the beast's den. Looking down the dark hall, the hero tells his partner to move up carefully. The giant doors slowly swing open, showing off the creepy interior. The main hall is a massive room covered in thick fog. Walking through the room, the kid focuses on a magic circle on the floor and announces he found the target. Suddenly, the mage looks back, completely terrified by the incoming danger. A crushing attack comes from behind, forcing the swordsman to block on pure reflex without knowing what's going on. Caught off guard, the prota sees the empty hall and tries to figure out how the enemy's presence vanished so fast. Out of nowhere, a voice mocks him, saying the coward fungus was actually right, leaving the kid shocked by the enemy's speed. The giant monster holds the red artifact, admitting he's surprised to see crazy people trying to steal the relic. Staring down the intruders, the red-skinned giant praises the duo's skills for sneaking past the guards outside without causing a scene. The kid funnels his aura into his sword, knowing the fight is going to be brutal, but focused on not leaving without the orb. Soon, the demon lets out crushing dark pressure, cockily warning that he has no interest in using cheap tricks. The mage calls on the light from her holy book, apologizing in advance and taking up the support role next to her partner. Absolutely furious and covered in flames, Supreme Commander Giesel swears to crush the brats without a single drop of mercy.